board meeting tonight due to illness. May I have a motion and second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All pass 6-0. Okay. Before we get started with tonight's board meeting, I would like to welcome the community back to our board meeting. Please remember, if you are in attendance, you must keep your mask on at all times. Keep physical distance between you and others, and use the hand sanitizer post here in the boardroom. Those who refuse to wear a mask will be asked to leave, and we will call the law enforcement if needed. We take the health and safety of your community seriously and ask you to do the same. Thank you. So Daniel, please roll call.
President Say,
Present.
Vice President Yu,
Here.
Clerk Nishi. Here. Board Member Dr. Apodaca,
Here.
Board Member Dr. Eugenio, absent. Board Member Dr. Beach,
Present.
Board Member Dr. Rios. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. This evening, we'll be discussing the following item in closed section. Conference labor negotiated. Update on negotiation with ABCFT, AFSCME, and CSEA. We also have existing litigation, Special Education Settlement Agreement, OAH number 20210904433, and Special Education Settlement Agreement, OAH 2021100229. So this is the thing we're going to be discussing at our closed section. Okay. Do we have a public comment?
I don't see any, Madam President.
So no comment related to the closed section. Now we're going to ask motion and second to move to the closed section. May I have a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion passed 6-0. Now we're going to the closed section.
spend, and leisure time to sit a while. There is a fair lady in this town who sorely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips alone she holds my heart enthralled. Then fill to me the parting glass. Good night, and God be with you all. Oh, all the comrades that e'er I've had, they're sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls into my lot that I should rise and you should not, oh, gently rise and softly
welcome the community back to our board meeting. Please remember, if you are in attendance, you must keep your mask on at all times. Keep physical distance between you and others. And use the hand sanitizer post here in the boardroom. Those who refuse to wear masks will be asked to leave. And we will call the law enforcement if needed. I hate to say that, but I just ask in public, please help us and support us, because we take the health and safety of your community seriously and ask that you do the same. I want to say thank you very much for your support. I also ask you if you can't silence your cell phones. We'll welcome public comments, and anybody wishing to make a public comment should fill out a card located on the table by the door and place in the silver bin. All public comments are to be made during the public comments section or at the time an item is presented and must be done before the item is discussed. Each comment must be no more than 5 minutes. Tonight in closed session, the board discussed conference with neighbor negotiated, update on negotiation with ABCFT, AFSCME, and CSEA. The board also discussed and approved the special education settlement agreement in the amount of $13,600, which is including tutoring for $5,600, speech and language therapy services for $4,000, and attorney fees for $4,000 for OAH number 2021090-433 by the vote of 6-0. We also in closed section, the board discussed and approved a special education settlement agreement in the amount of $56,652, which includes non-public school placement of $30,118, transportation $9,144, counseling $7,090, and education counseling 40 hours at $4,800, attorney fee $5,500 for OAH number 2021100-229 by a vote of 6-0. I'd like to ask our Dr. Apodaca, can you lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us today?
Be my honor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir.
Please stand. Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. You may be seated.
Thank you, Dr. Apodaca. The Spotlight Teaching Learning for presentation. The first one is Communication Quarterly Updated. This will be leading by our Communication Officer, Mr. Scott Smith.
Thank you very much, President Say, board members, superintendent, cabinet, community. Tonight I'll cover our communications efforts that have taken place over the past 3 months. August was an exciting month, not just because we welcomed students back to school, but because we had some great stories to tell. That month, we brought in our new equity officer, who you'll hear from in a little bit. We announced free meals to all students, and we saw Whitney High School ranked second in the state, and all of our high schools ranked highly nationally by the U.S. News and World Report. Local news media covered all of these stories. We also shared a great deal of information online through our weekly community update and on social media. This information ranged from explaining the governor's announcement about the vaccine verification order for teachers and education staff to sharing our COVID-19 safety plan. A heavy focus was placed on returning to school and celebrating the first week of school, the first full week of school many of our students have ever had. The excitement we saw in August rolled right into September when we celebrated the opening of the new stadium. I remember seeing many of you there. The new stadium field at Artesia High School and Cerritos Elementary School being named as a National Blue Ribbon School. Again, these stories were covered by local and regional media. It was during September that we began to focus again on student stories, celebrating those students named as Athletes of the Week by the Long Beach Press-Telegram, and paying attention to national months, weeks, and days that mean so much to our schools. October saw us continue looking to share new and fun stories that showcase our schools and students. Stories from our schools ranked nationally. Stories from our schools included ranking 2 Whitney High School students ranked nationally for earning perfect scores on AP exams, to Kennedy Elementary opening a new buddy bench. All were carried by local media. We also had other great stories to talk about, like our schools participating in the Great Shakeout, College Connections Week, and the community returning here to the boardroom. It's through sharing these stories about what makes our schools special, students, families, teachers, and staff, that draw the most interest and attention. The social media posts that really gained the most attention were about our schools, what we're doing at our schools, and when we focused right back on our students. With this in mind, we will continue looking for stories like the unveiling of that buddy bench at Kennedy Elementary, where we can show the smiles in every student's eye. That's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And here I have to acknowledge our former board member, Linda Johnson. She had said we need a PR, public relations or a commissioner's officer, and she says so important to have this position to represent our district, to our own district, and also to the public, and he definitely way qualified for that. I want to thank you again for working so hard, and you also helped me a lot me and him actually talk more than Dr. Sue, because I always ask Scott, what's happening in our district? He always update with me. I want to thank you so much for working so hard with me. I appreciate. The next one will be our equity officer quarterly update, and definitely we'll welcome to our new hire, actually not anymore, 2 months past already. We have Ms. Thomas, equity officer. It's yours now.
Good evening, President Say, Vice President Yu, Clerk Nishi, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Sue, Cabinet, and community. First, I would like to impart a brief reminder of the compliances related to my role as equity officer. Understanding these compliances will better represent the objectives for this quarterly report that I'm about to give. These compliances for Title IX and Title VI serve the elimination of systematic barriers, the examination of biases, the interruption and elimination of inequitable practices, so that we may create more inclusive and just learning conditions for all of our students. I am the district Title IX coordinator for Title IX federal compliance as it relates to students. I address allegations of sexual harassment under the definition of Title IX law, which protects students from discrimination on the basis of sex, gender, in education programs or activities. Furthermore, I work with the school compliance officers as we together investigate allegations of sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, as defined by the Title IX law. Together, we also investigate any allegations of all other forms of sex discrimination that may not be defined under Title IX, but are addressed under the district's non-discrimination and anti-harassment policies. Secondly, I am the compliance officer for adherence to Title VI, which is the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as it relates to students, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in any of our programs or activities. Both Title IX and Title VI are enforced by the U.S. Department Office of Civil Rights. My duty is to ensure the grievance process described in these policies and our board policy satisfy any investigation requirements. Now on to the fun stuff. On to equity in action strides that have been made this quarter. August was my month of acclimation. I reviewed district data, gained an awareness of the prior school year hybrid virtual independent learning models, and met with district personnel. In my work, I am focused on 2 aspects of the district strategic plan. First, systematic support of student success. Secondly, family and community engagement. So the beginning of August through September, I met and will continue to meet with district departments to gather elements for our definition of educational equity, based on their current and planned work in pursuit of integrating more equability in our academic programs and services for students. The next step after that will be to collaborate with the superintendent's cabinet, district directors, and the Diversity, Unity, and Equity Board Advisory Committee to draft a common definition of educational equity. In the area of athletics, which also involves Title IX, I co-created safety posters, presentations, and other documents to inform athletic directors and parents on county protocols for our sports programs related to COVID-19 management procedures. Next, moving on to the Diversity, Unity, Equity Board Advisory Committee, I met with all the members, including the student representatives of the DUE Committee, as we call it for short, in preparation for our first meeting. I'm smiling behind my mask, you can't see it. In preparation of our first meeting, October 21st, and it was the first meeting, was a closed agenda because we wanted to allow the members of the committee to get to know each other, to learn about their goal and purpose of the work, and to set short-term and long-term objectives. The next meeting is November 18th at 6 p.m., and Dr. Rios is our board member representative. In September, moving on to October, I made several presentations to principals and assistant principals. The first presentation was on LGBTQIA+ students' rights as outlined by the California law AB 1266. This presentation was necessary to help administrators support currently identified transgender and nonconforming students and their families at their schools, as well as for all administrators to be aware of their duty under this law. Next was a presentation for the compliance officers in our district at each school on conducting the Title IX investigation process for students' reports of sexual harassment, discrimination, and violence. I also attended the Title IX training by AALRR with our new administrators. And lastly, I co-presented with CWA, Child Welfare and Attendance, to enhance our administrators' understanding of bullying, harassment, discrimination, and intimidation as it relates to the protected classes under the federal law, and as stated by our district non-discrimination policy. Overall, the goal of all of these presentations is to enhance our school climate for students to learn in a trusted and more safe environment. Therefore, the work of branding our non-discrimination and anti-harassment policies via the Think poster continues. I support the work of Student Services / CWA in asking students to think about interacting with their peers, how they interact with their peers before they post anything on social media. We ask students to think, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Think posters have been revised and will be sent to every school by the end of the month. Now on to highlight some hard work of equity in action. Our parent and student empowerment. Equity in action can foster or should foster the creation of intercultural spaces to better build confidence and engagement for intercultural involvement and advocacy by parents and students within their schools. The Black Family Circle and the newly formed Hispanic Latino Family Circle employs the talents and knowledge of our school site personnel, district personnel, along with guest speakers to present as an alliance on educational topics. Through the lens of respecting cultural identity development, social justice, community building, and empowerment to support student success. This year, the Black Family Circle events continues the profound work of Dr. Wise, Director of Secondary Schools and Career Technical Education, the Black Family Alliance, along with the Whitney Black Alumni Association. Our first Black Family Circle was October 27th and focused on social emotional learning, education, and the pandemic. Our outstanding guest speaker, Dr. Shanti Branch, an international educator and motivational speaker, really helped us understand how we can transform the lives of Black and Latino males through their social emotional awareness. Our next Black Family Circle event is December 1st at 6 p.m. On November 17th, which I'm excited, again, I'm smiling behind the mask, will be our first event for the Hispanic Latino Family Circle. The topic is defining our mission, the importance of Hispanic Latino family involvement. Our guest speaker will be Dr. Lourdes Frier, author of the 10 Competencies for Hispanic Latino Parent Involvement. Information on BFC and HLFC has been sent via social media, Parent Square, and emails. Other intercultural spaces for AAPI students and other students are in the works, and I'll report on those in the coming months. To further support our efforts, I've created web pages on the district website for Title IX and Title VI. These pages are under review and will be published by the end of 2021. Finally, just so you know that I'm not alone in my thoughts, I have a network of support through my involvement with other equity directors, chief officers of diversity and equity inclusion across the state and surrounding communities. It will be a continued support for all of us to work through challenges and pressures of some of the things our districts have not seen before. This is my report, and I thank you.
Do you have any questions for my board? Okay. I just want to say thank you so much. I have one question. I missed that. Sorry. So that would be our Dr. Rios. It's yours.
I get more nervous than usual when I get a little concerned. But first of all, congratulations. Thank you for being here. I can't not say that I'm a little troubled with Title IX, because I remember when we were working hard to bring about an equity officer, we made it clear that we wanted this position to enhance and do what we haven't already been doing. We've always had a Title IX coordinator. We've always had a Title IX compliance officer. And so I really hope that your time is not taken away from the work that we did as a board hire you to do, which is to enhance the services and bring about equity to our district. Responsibility to protect and to serve the LGBTQ community is absolutely important, and that is the work of all of us. So again, I don't want to take away from your presentation. Thank you, but I want to remind our superintendent and our cabinet that being a compliance officer ideally would take minimal time, not a majority of your time. Thank you.
Okay. Hold on one second, Ms. Thomas. We have another board member also have a question. Go ahead, Clerk Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. Really quick, so I'm very glad that you're here as well. I think you have a great opportunity to show that these positions will actually enhance the experience for our students and enhance their academic performance as well. So I'm hoping that we're creating some baselines with the relevant communities that you're doing. And how long do you think it will take? I know we can't, this is not math. I know, I get that. But if you were to try to determine, I have a certain baseline and I would like to have them get to par or maybe exceed par, what would you think would be a reasonable time to potentially see those kind of results?
That's a question that I've often been asked and I think about, is the tangibility of the outcomes. And when you're doing work that is respecting the cultural identity of students and parents, you will see the difference in attendance to the events that we create, and also attendance to school site council meetings, attendance to certain aspects of their school community. And because we're building their advocacy and their awareness, we're hoping that they go into spaces in their schools and they ask and they demand a little different, I guess you could say, educational outlook or program than what they've seen. So from the surveys I've done thus far, a lot of students talk about wanting to have a space for understanding more about colleges, and we do that already, you would think. You say, well, we do that, we have all these nights. But maybe we're missing somehow a segment of our population that's not understanding when we present in the way that we present. So just making sure that we're able to give spaces to people so they can be advocacious for themselves. The hard thing about measures is that I can't give them a test. I give perception surveys. So if we have 1,422 African-American students in the district, if I have their parents and them fill it out and I get 829, and we see what they thought from the beginning to the end, that's a growth in understanding and a growth in involvement. We have 9,523, I believe, Latino Hispanic students, but only 88% of them graduate. 98%, I think, is our graduation rate. So we see a movement in how their parents are involving themselves in our schools and how they are then changing, because there's other things I can't really speak on because they have to be approved. I have to present to the cabinet, Dr. Sue, to see if we can move forward with really trying to do different programs for our students. So we have supportive measures in place that allow them to stay connected to the school. So it's a really hard question to answer. You just have to really have some trust.
So I know you're not Superwoman,
Yeah.
although we're expecting you to be Superwoman, and
I'm
you
not
will
alone in
need
this work.
funding and budget to achieve your aim. So don't get me wrong; it's not going to be hopefully mission impossible. But so something like increased colleges, right, potentially, or increased graduation rates. Those might be good metrics, and So maybe after a few years or so, if we are able to provide the resources that are necessary
I'll
to
give
get
this-
there.
Yeah, I'll give the same metric they give a new principal, 3 years.
Per your recommendation, 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And then I'm kind of interested, this Latino Family Circle, is that going to be, how is that, I don't know anything about it, except that it's going to happen.
I send information, I'll send it again, I'll make sure you receive that. So what it is an intercultural space where we discuss certain aspects of education, but from the understanding from their lens and the cultural aspect of how they relate to education. So for example, Dr. Lourdes Pierre has spoken to many Hispanic Latino families and African American families, but she wrote a book because that is who she is, based on her own cultural identity, that has been successful and has really helped understand that they can go into spaces and not be afraid and demand that you have translation. So for example, Hispanic Family Latino Circle, I'm having translation. While that we are presenting, they'll be in the same space as us, and they'll be able to have translation in Spanish. So we're working hard to do that, so it's alongside, it's not in spite of, and having things separate.
So one of the challenges might be that it's going to be, are you planning to do it by Zoom or in person?
No, we're doing it by Zoom. I've done Zoom where I've done 3 languages.
Okay.
When you translate, and you just have different rooms, but the presenters are moving forward, so everyone sees, the presenters see everything up front, so they'll know how to pace themselves and still make sure that everyone is included in the question and answer aspect of the Zoom as itself.
So I'm hoping that you have really good attendance, because we have plenty of people that could utilize the services, I'm
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
And hopefully we can also, again, move that marker, so that way they can be successful in college and graduate and realize their dreams. So thank you.
Thank you.
Again, it's all about budget too, but
Yes.
you know, I'm hoping you the best of success. Thank you. That's all.
Uh,
Thank
we-
you, Madam President.
Thank you. Next one will be our Vice President, Ms. Yu.
Thank you, Madam
Ms.
President.
Thomas?
Thank you, Ms.
You can't go
Thomas.
there, yeah. No, yeah.
Just Ms. Thomas. First of all, I want to welcome you formally. Thank you for joining our school, and you have a great team here. I'm sure you have been experiencing that already.
Yes.
And the event, the Black Family Circle, was really inspiring. I think the speaker, the main speaker, Ashanti Branch, was very inspiring. And he shared something that's very, 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 very fundamental, and he hit the chord. And I hope that we can hear him again in the future. But
Yes, and that's an example. He has a program that he does with male students, just to, because sometimes, you know, it's not easy coming to school, and as a young man, you have other things on your mind.
That's right.
And you're not, like, for example, when I did my survey, 73% of the survey respondents were female. And, you know, so they get left out of the conversation a lot. So he has devised a way that lets them become powerful in their own space, in their own place, and knowing their voice and learning their voice. So yes, we're looking to have him come into our district and do programs for Black and Latino males. Another supportive measure besides detention that doesn't really build them or make them feel connected to school.
thank you very much.
I want to thank you, Ms. Thomas, you know, working so hard. Just got hired about 2 months, and you're attending a lot of training and the services and learning as much as you can and provide it back to serve to our district. I really want to appreciate. I also, what our Vice President said about the guest speaker that you have, Mr. Branch. You know, he shared his personal experience and his involvement in helping students overcome social. I remember he said social emotional issue there, and I really enjoyed that the presentation you did it with Dr. Weiss and other staff. I want to sincerely really appreciate you working hard, and we're looking forward to new meeting and conference that you provided for all. I really appreciate as a board president. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
services.
I appreciate it. Oh, I have one last thing. Just because Vice President Sue made me think of it. When Ashanti spoke, I asked for parents to volunteer to be a part of the December 1st meeting. 25 parents on their feedback form said that they want to be able to speak on what they do in their student school. Where would that have ever
Beautiful.
happened if we had not done that forum? And imagine what would happen when we do Hispanic Latino forum, when people are now feeling confident and want to go into their school and do something differently, so we don't have to search for a quorum for our school site councils. That makes a big difference on how school site single plans look in all of our schools. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Move on to our agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda for regular meeting of November 2nd, 2021?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
6-0 passes. Now, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 19, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passed 6-0. Now it's a student board presentation, and tonight we have a Gar High student. And after you finish your report, please introduce your principal and your new assistant principal today. Okay, that's your job today, after you finish your report. And we have two ladies here. One is Miss Ahmet, right? Ahmet? D at the end of the D, Ahmet. And we also have Miss Mouthlip. Okay, so you can come to the podium now. Thank you very much.
Good evening, President Say, Vice President Yu, Clerk Nishi, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Mary Sue, and her cabinet. My name is Manahil Ahmed, and this is Amira Mathalib, and today we are here to present our school board report for Gar High School.
For the class of 2025, during Club Rush, the freshman class cabinet hosted a photo booth for freshmen to take pictures. They plan on sending pan dulce and hot chocolate after school.
For the class of 2024, our sophomores just finished their class t-shirt sale and are planning more fundraisers throughout the year. They are putting on our GAR's second annual Dia de los Muertos event on November 5th. They are also looking at sites for this year's upcoming winter formal dance.
For the class of 2023, the junior class is currently distributing their class shirts, planning for prom, and working on various fundraisers. They raised over $500 in class t-shirt sales.
For the class of 2022, the senior class hosted the Senior Sunrise event in August. That's where seniors get together after the long summer break and to paint their parking stalls, listen to music, and socialize. They are currently planning their upcoming events, Senior Privilege, Magic Mountain Day, Grad Bash at Magic Mountain, and Senior Awards Night.
For the Associated Student Body, as the school year started, ASB held Club Rush. This event featured 22 different clubs and other student organizations for students to join. ASB has also planned weekly lunch rallies with different themes such as Red Ribbon Week, Hispanic Heritage Month, Homecoming Week, and Filipino History Month. ASB partnered with the Spanish Club to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month by playing loteria and hosting stations at lunch for students to make papel picado, a Hispanic decorative event. ASB is currently preparing for the homecoming dance on Friday, November 12th. The theme is City of Stars. Our homecoming rally will be held virtually and will showcase games, student performances, and the crowning of our homecoming royalty.
For academics, earlier this year, Gar High School students received Principal Honor Roll and Honor Roll certificates from the spring semester of the 2021 school year. We also printed photos of all our 4.0 GPA students in the front office for all to see. We also held our 17th annual Spelling Bee last week. The winner of the AP Honors Spelling Bee was Senior Rael Quijada, and the winner of the CP Spelling Bee was Junior Chuck Wude Ebube Ebonilo. Both winners received gift baskets and a huge trophy. Associate Student Body represented GAR on the Latinx Hispanic Heritage panel put on by ABCUSD.
For the Student Resource Center, our Student Resource Center encouraged students to wear orange to raise awareness on National Bullying Prevention Month.
For athletics, girls volleyball played a CIF wildcard home game and won. Baseball, softball, boys volleyball all came to cheer them on. The girls then went on to Oaks Christian High School and lost, unfortunately. The girls golf team also qualified for CIF. The girls varsity tennis team took first place in singles and doubles for league finals, which means they will compete in CIF.
For band, our 6-time state champion marching band has attended their first 2 competitions of the season, the Mayfair Field Show and the University Field Show Tournament. They won the following awards: first place in Division 5A, High Percussion, High Auxiliary, High Music Effect, High General Effect, High Visual Effect, and overall tournament sweepstakes. Our marching band is now looking forward to and preparing for the GAR Invitational Field Show Tournament on Saturday, November 6th. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. What about your principal?
Today we have present our principal, Dr. Lois, and our assistant principal. Mr.
Oh, wow. Oh, my Donald, hi. Good to see you, sir. Have we introduced him before? No. We haven't introduced him. We haven't? I know we never, but since you're here, can you stand up so everybody can see you?
Thank you.
Thank you. But that's my home school, okay? So I have to do that. Oh, what's our parents here, don't we? Is your parents here?
Yeah, my mom.
Oh, good. Where's your mother?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hi. What about, okay, anybody else besides mom? Okay, but that's good. Now we have parents, most important. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I have two people on the board right now. One is board clerk, Nishii. Next one will be our board member, Mr. Beach.
Actually, quick, don't go yet. So, to support the band, which is a really great institution, they're going to have something this coming on the 6th, right? There's also a fundraiser. Is there potentially a fundraiser at Rubio's between 2 and 8 on Thursday? Is that right? So if anybody wants to get some food between 2 and 8 on Thursday at Rubio's at the Cerritos Town Center, that might be a good place to go and support the band. It costs a lot of money to get those things going. And so I'm hoping to see everybody in this room, everybody, all the board members to show up, get some great food. Well, it's okay food, but great food. And support this great institution that won first place. Isn't that amazing? Thank you.
When is the fundraiser?
You know, I think it's Thursday between 2 and 8 at Rubio's. Rubio's at the town center in Cerritos. Yes. You guys did a great report, by the way. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if Mom wants a picture, I'll send her to her.
Still don't go. Still have to stay a little while, okay? I'm sorry. I know you're trying to be hurried to go home. We have our board member, Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. My fellow gladiator, Dr. Yanyo, is not here tonight, but on behalf of both of us, thank you for your report, and go Gladiators.
Yes.
Yeah, go
That's my home school too, by the way. We also have a Garhai, I think that you have a few tournament coming up, right? The Saturday, November 6th at, I believe 10, gates open at 9:30. Kickoff time with starting like 10 o'clock. So Garhai School, like our board member just mentioned about you guys. Thank you so much. You can go home now. Thank you, appreciate you came. So next one, let me get my, well, after student report, that'd be our employee representative report.
No,
Is it superintendent report? Oh, sorry, I jumped it. Next, it will be our superintendent report.
Thank you so much, Manahil and Amira, for a great report from Gar High School tonight. On Friday, October the 29th, I was able to participate in the Cerritos Elementary School's Halloween parade. This was one of the largest parades where students were dressed up according to Principal Craig Spratt. He was dressed as an elephant, a giant elephant. We had a lunch meeting for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program with our labor groups. We discussed numerous items that day. This is still an ongoing product of its work. I met with Adrienne Thomas, our equity officer, and Dr. Christina Wise, our director of secondary schools. We discussed numerous items that afternoon. We clapped out Olivia Vanos, our clerical assistant with pupil records. She retired on Friday. We had our first social for ABCMA at the Gaucho Grill Argentine Steakhouse. We had a wonderful time where people were dressed up in their outfits. On Monday, November the 1st, I was in our cabinet meeting with the principals and our equity officer. They included Tom Tracy at Nixon Elementary School, Julie Yabumoto from Palms Elementary School, Sergio Garcia, Artesia High School, and Adrienne Thomas, our equity officer.
We discussed numerous issues that will be shared later with our Board of Education. I participated in the AXA 2022 Superintendent's Academy to plan for our discussions at the Indian Wells Resort. We discussed numerous items from keynote speakers and breakout sessions. We held our PAL Council meeting in the afternoon. Numerous issues were discussed with Ray Gear, myself, Tanya Golden, Kelly Forsythe, Dr. Valencia Mayfield, Dr. Colin Sprague, and Jill Yamashita, and Melinda Ortiz. On Tuesday, I participated in the AALRR's Emerging from the Pandemic 2021, It's the Law Now. Numerous issues were discussed during the 2.5-hour session. There were about 105 participants in the attendance. Jim Baca, Kevin Gordon, and Jack O'Connor were participants in the meeting. In the afternoon, I discussed with the Consul General of Japan, Muto Akita, our decision to remain at Whitney High School. Students will benefit from the program at Whitney High School with the Japanese classes there being taught from Kim Suzuki. Tomorrow, I will be flying to Washington, D.C. to join with Principal Craig Spratt at Cerritos Elementary School and teacher Stephanie Watson in Maryland. We'll be receiving the National Blue Ribbon Award from the ceremony. Thank you. There is a request that all of us participate at Cerritos Elementary School on December the 1st, 2021 at 9:30 to 10 o'clock to raise their significant National Blue Ribbon School flag. That's the end of my report, President Say.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Next one will be our employee representative report. Do we have any, Ray? No? Okay. Then that will be my turn to report. First, I would like to say happy early Thanksgiving. My best wishes to all of our ABCUSD teachers, staff, family, students, and community supporters. I, Sophia Zhe, as board president, we hope you all have the opportunity to get together with your families to celebrate all that we have to be thankful for. My wish for you all to stay healthy during the fall break. I have received some calls and called people regarding public comment in person or virtual. Recently, AB 361 became law. The law allows for an easier transition to virtual comment during the emergency situation, like we experienced last school year when our students were learning at home online. At this time, we're not operating under an emergency, and the board has not taken action declaring an emergency. I have emailed the board colleagues information about AB 361. If we have a consensus, we can add a virtual option for members of the community to provide public comments. I would suggest doing so during the second public comment section on each board agenda, allowing for in-person public comment during the first public comment. I was just wondering, ask my board colleague, do I have a consensus on this issue? In-person public comment will be on the first section. At the end, we have another public comment. The second public comment, we open to the person who's home. I just want to hear from my colleague, make some comment, we'll see how is it. Go ahead, board member, Mr. Dr. Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam President. Procedurally, can we even give a consensus for something that wasn't itemized or disclosed to the public beforehand?
This just need a consensus.
Does
This
it?
need to be go- yeah,
It just is a
and
consensus?
Just need a consensus, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I don't hear anything, then that's going to be filed. We'll just go back to only in person on the first and second public comment. Okay, I have Board Clerk, Mr. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that's a great idea to enable and allow more access to the public, and the compromise position that you have, having second public comments, is a great idea, and I would be in favor of it. Thank you, Madam President. That's it.
I have total 7 board members. I have, Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. I also support it and have said that in previous meetings. Thank you.
I did spoke to Dr. Eugenio. He also support that too. So right now Dr. Chris Apodaca also agree with that. So right now I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3. Are you supporting that too? Okay, 4. So 5, 6, okay, we all support that. So I just want to let Dr. Su and our chief administrator please help us. I know it's tough because we do have to take a little break between that, so staff can have a chance to change the other program. So I want to thank you, Scott, for helping me out this one. I did talk to them first, okay, if it's possible, how labor can handle that. But that does cause some labor there. But as a school board, all of us always trying to meet the parent needs and public needs, and that's what we are. We thank them to support our school needs, and now it's us to return back to them. Thank you, my colleague, to support this consensus. Now, my report is a site visit. On October 21st, I attended ABC Elementary School online independent study back to school night. Special thanks to Principal Brown and Assistant Principal Mr. Wang for welcoming me and also patiently assist me from room to Zoom during the Zoom meeting, Google meeting, because it was hard for me because I only do Zoom, I don't do Google, so we're kind of struggling a little bit, but end up I visit a lot of classroom. I want to thank you, our staff, helping me. On October 27th, attending the Black Family Circle meeting, and the mission is to increase Black student success by acknowledging the challenges, the impeding achievement, while empowering students, educators, parents, and community through the strategy planning and solution. The Black Family Circle supports student excellence. This meeting focused on social emotional learning, and AB 104 and AB 130 online independent study guest speaker. Mr. Branch, like I mentioned to you before, shared his personal experience and his involvement in helping students overcome social emotional issues. October 28, attended CSBA Daily News Roundup meeting, which is regional 28. Many information on in-person AB 361 meeting and current issues were discussed. Again, I wish you all a wonderful fall and happy Thanksgiving, and that concludes my report. So next one's a public comment. Mr. Nishi?
Thank you, Madam President. Persons wishing to address the board should fill out a card located at the table at the door and paste it in civil tin right over there. Speakers will be called in sequence during the public comment section, which is being limited to 1 hour, and each speaker to one presentation of 5 minutes unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Persons wishing to address the board on a specific agenda item at the time the item is under discussion are limited to 5 minutes each and shall be called upon to speak following the staff comments and prior to the board discussion and taking action. Adverse remarks about a person's race, ancestry, ethnic group identification, religion, color, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender, mental, physical disability, or age may not be made. Please avoid remarks or charges which reflect upon the character, motives, qualifications, or ability of any school district employee. Concerns addressed to the board will be followed up and addressed by the appropriate staff. I believe there are some public comments, and looks like there's not too many, so I can just call them one at a time. Barbara Rabello?
Barbara, there's some wipes there. You can use it. After you finish, you can wipe it clean for the next person. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Because if not, I'm going to forget.
I will remind you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, President Sam, Vice President Yu, Board, Dr. Su. It's a pleasure for me to be here. My name is Barbara Rabello, and the reason I'm here, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm here is because my company, American Income Life, has been in the community for over 60 years, and we have a child-safe kit that we like to ask permission to contact your principals on campus. And I know there's other different ways to do it, but I think this is way too much important to do it through PCHR. I think that's the name of the process. So this is a child-safe kit. And, you know, I was shocked whenever I understood that 450,000 kids a year disappear. And, you know, we are just trying to do whatever we can to help. And if I ask any parent, if you remember what your kid is wearing right now, I'm sure that you don't remember because I'm guilty, right? So there's different things that we can do. One of the things is like, we provide this program, which I can explain further because I don't have too much time. But I just want to tell you that you can do your own ink printing and put the fingerprinting in the pamphlet. And then you can pull a hair so you can have DNA and put it in a little baggie here. And you have the picture, and you have any other physical descriptions or medications that the kid is taking, because sometimes, whenever in a hurry or we have in danger, we forget to do that. So inside of the pouch, you have my business card. And also, I just want to let you know that this program is endorsed by the American Federation of School Administrators, the International Union of Police Association, which is a great help. And I just put a sample in those folders about whenever you give us permission, this is the letter that goes to the principal. And ends like this. It's Spanish and English, or it could be any language that you want. With a message for the child, for the parent, we provide these cards, and if the parent decided to send it back to us, we just collect those cards and give a small donation to the school for each card that we receive. And usually, we can make a contest for the teachers, so they can get as much money as they want for whatever their needs are. So that's pretty much for me, but my business card is in there, as I said, and I already emailed your communications director about the program. So if somebody can follow up with me, that will be all. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all your achievements.
Thank you.
Madam President, sorry, point of privilege. Who would be the right person from Cabinet to give this to? It's probably more useful in their hands than it is in mine. Would it be Scott?
Yes. You know what? We can give it to Scott
Okay.
and Dr. Su. I know Dr. Su's writing down the information here.
Okay, great.
So, yeah. So
Thank you,
we
Mr.
can-
Bello.
Yeah. It is very good information, but
Thank you.
we feel we need to give appropriate people to handle that.
Thank you.
And I thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, go ahead, clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. I got to figure out how to work this timer here. Next speaker is Emily Chen Darnell.
Good evening, school board members and superintendent, school community. My name is Emily Chen Darnell, and I am a parent leader in this school community. I'm also a parent of 2 young children, and 1 child is in this school district. In past board meetings, I brought up several school issues, such as school of choice, declining school enrollment numbers, diversity inclusion training, advocating for the creation of an equity officer position, and expanding the age eligibility for early education programs at this district. Recently, when I spoke up in support of the implicit bias trainings and for denouncing the false misinformation campaign of Gracie Vandermark at the Cerritos Library meeting, I was echoing the very strong sentiments of many angry people who contacted the board members about the divisive comments of board member Su Yu, who willingly participate as an ABC school board member, as her words are captured in the audio of the meeting that has circulated around. This particular incident has not been forgotten. And I want to express those people, thanks to those people who spoke up, particularly Ray Gare, Teachers Union President, who spoke up so strongly condemning this misinformation campaign and labeling the rhetoric as alt-right. He strongly spoke up for those teachers and staff members that were angered by the damaging words expressed so bluntly by a sitting member. And we should also thank those elected officials, community members, like Norma Williamson, president-elect of the Seroptimus Club, that emailed the board members deriding those comments and asked for apology to be posted on the district website. Parents also spoke up, those that are most active in the community, as they engage in numerous conversations with their parent groups about those topics. And I am aware of those brave school students who join in on these conversations as well in the classrooms and in the district-led Equity Inclusion Committee meetings as well. criticizing and defending those of the use of the gender pronouns. What example are we setting for our students to expect a lot more out of our elected leaders to promote values of tolerance, inclusivity, and basic dignity for all cultures? The weak response for cultural competency training for the board members as a remedy for this gross and ignorant mishap of any board member's remark during the meeting is unlikely to bring about real change in this pattern of ethnocentric thinking, especially those who are really immersed in more homogenous cultures. After all, the board members with the same members except Brad Beach and Michael Eugenio went through a cultural competency training back in September 2019, which was recorded and is available to the public. So let it be known that the public is not satisfied by this weak response of the board members who choose to simply move on and believe that these comments will go away. And thus the angry feelings will go away as well. Those people who wrote emails and met with you may not be present at this particular meeting, but they are certainly awaiting to see how this board responds in future meetings. And hopefully in the meetings ahead, you will relay a very strong message denouncing those comments, and then in so doing, relaying a more positive message about accepting and tolerance of all cultural values, rituals, and support for those particular groups, marginalized groups, the Latinos and African Americans, who are greatly angered and insulted by the slavery and the quinceañera comments. Thank you so much for your time.
We have Eddie Salcido. Oh, okay, so
I'm Allison.
Allison Salcido, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the last minute change. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Allison, and for the last several weeks, you've heard from passionate comments from my husband here at your meetings and over email, calling for the resignation of Ms. Sue Yu and for a meaningful apology from her. And because there has been neither, I am here tonight. And I'm not here tonight to appeal to you anymore, Ms. Sue Yu. It's clear that you are not going to be doing anything. I'm here tonight to appeal to the entire board. When I picked up my daughter tonight from an activity, she's 10 in 5th grade at Kennedy, she said, "Where are we going? Why aren't we going home?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to the school district because I need to speak tonight." And she said, "Is this because of the Sue Yu thing still?" I said, "Yes, honey, this is still a thing." I don't know how we can allow such hurtful and hateful language to dominate the conversations and narrative in our district for several weeks without any kind of action. And that Sue Yu could potentially become our next board president. Are we okay with this? As a board, I ask you, are you okay being led by someone who makes publicly demeaning comments to the very students for which you claim to serve? Your complacency signals to me acceptance. Her comments and inaction are not acceptable to me. I do not doubt that you are all good people. You work very hard. I have great respect for many of you. But I don't know how I can trust an entire board that has sat idly by and done nothing when we are trying to do the best for our kids and our community. Are we not an inclusive, unified, under the words you sit beneath, school district? Do we not want the best for our kids? Do we want to trust that our leaders share these interests? I hope so. So to the board, I don't come with solutions. I'm not going to prescribe to you what I think needs to be done because I am not an expert. This is not my area of expertise. But decency and the humanity of how we treat each other is my business. So I'm humbly appealing to you tonight to do something. Come together. Show our children that in times of challenge, that's when growth happens. That we can heal as a community. that sweeping under the rug is not acceptable. And if we think that that's going to be acceptable for this district and for our children, I cannot vote for you in the next school board election. Please show us that you are worth our vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Salcido.
Thank you.
So next we have Eddie Salcido. I'm good. Oh, you're good? Okay. Any more?
Do we have any? No more? Okay.
No more further public comments, Madam President.
Thank you, Clerk Nishii. Now we're going to consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to remove any item to be considered separately? If none, all those in favor say yes.
Madam President, item 3.8.
Nobody push a button here?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
Madam,
Oh, got you.
3.8.
Mhm. Okay. It's for clarification, or you want to remove the item?
No, I just clarification, that's all.
Okay.
Just a few questions, that's all. So these previous particular contractors were not included in the previous agenda, and just wondering why.
Agenda, which number? Did you say the number?
3.8,
3.8, okay.
these three different contracts.
Okay. And so who's in
Typic-
charge of that one?
Good evening, members of the board. Typically, when we're bringing forth a revision or an amendment to an item, it's because we are in the process of working with a family whose child may have specific needs, and we don't currently have an evaluator who's qualified to assess the student in those specific areas, or it could be at the request of the parent for a specific provider. And according to the law, we are required to bring forth options for the family, and the families can choose their own options, at which point we'll have to bring them to the board for approval.
So this is a renewal of the existing contracts that we had, so
These are amendments, these are new ones that are being brought forth for this school year. So we are amending. So at the end of every school year, we bring a list of vendors or contractors that are ongoing, that we know we have students who are already being served by them. And then if there's new ones that occur during the school year, we bring it back to amend the original board item.
oh, I always thought that the consent calendar was to just renew the existing contracts for the next following year, so I hadn't seen these names, so I didn't know. So these are actually new people. So did we go through a bidding process, or it was the parents that selected these three particular companies and we are going to pick those?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else? My board colleague? Nada? Okay, so all in favor, please say yes. We already have a motion and second already.
Aye.
Aye? Yeah, okay. Motion passed 6-0. Now, next one's the action items, okay? So, 1.2-8, may I have a motion to approve revised board policy administrative regulation 1312.3, uniform compliant procedures?
So moved.
Second?
Dr. Zillo, please.
Good evening, Board. This evening, what we have before you is updated revisions to our uniform complaint procedures. These are the ones that do not apply for Williams. Those are still being worked on and will be coming. But it's both the board policy and the administrative regulation. We use the guidance from California School Boards Association in this revision, but they're pretty extensive based on some of the changes that have happened in legislation for both Title IX and how you address different complaints. So as you look in the first section on the board policy, the opening paragraphs are the same, but we've struck out all of the listing of the different entities, and what you'll see is they are now listed beginning on page 58, line by line. So instead of big ideas, they are listed out specifically the areas that you would be looking at for this procedure. Everything from accommodating parenting teens to student fees, et cetera, all 25 itemized out now. As we move into page 59, a lot of the changes are structural in terms of grammar to have it flow a little better, update the language, and make sure that the new regulations are listed in there. Moving into page 60, again, they've moved from kind of a paragraphing concept that was struck out to listing out specifically items that would not be subject to uniform complaint to help make it clear something that would be handled as a community complaint or some other type of issue that doesn't fit within the guidelines of this law. The next pages are all of the laws, and then moving into page 64 is the administrative regulation, and this is the details of how this works out in the process. The first paragraph has some adjustments, but the other two that have been stricken are reframed then below. So it's a reframing and a rewrite of information about the compliance officer, listing who that is with their information as required. And then it gives information about what the compliance officer does, and that wasn't in here previously. It is now a requirement. And then it goes into a set of notifications, which are far more detailed and detailing out specifically what a notice needs to include on page 66 all the way through 67. And then looking at striking out the previous language behind that. It then goes through steps, and it's talking about how a complaint is filed, and it's much more specific and detailed than it was previously, listing out the different things that have to happen and will happen in this process, with removing the old language onto page 70. Then it talks about the option of mediation, which is added to this and a little bit more, it's explained a little better, if you will. And then moving into how things are investigated. And this is where it's changed quite a bit, listing out how things would be investigated, what that looks like, and then also the timeline options that exist for that investigation. Finally, page 72, it lists out the actual items that would be in a report that someone would expect to see in there, and then the corrective actions that can take place following that on 73 and 74. It's a long one because they've created this now to where it's very detailed, and it's easy for someone who has filed this complaint to see what that looks like. Moving on to the bottom of 75, then it talks through the appeal process, if you're appealing to the Department of Ed, and then if we were to have a license exempt preschool, there's regulations for that. All of our preschools are in this district are licensed. So the language is there by law, but we have licensed preschools. And then the remainder has been stricken as it's all been changed. This policies both went to the Legislative Policy Committee and were approved to move forward to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zillow. Do we have any public comment for this agenda item, action item 1.2-A?
I don't see any, Madam President.
Thank you. Any discussion from board here? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's kind of late. Yes, Dr. Rios.
I just have a question about the compliance officer. So who is the person that is responsible for overseeing this process?
So for our district, the compliance officer is Dr. Mayfield, and she then designates to whoever would investigate based on the topic.
Okay. So it would not be our equity officer?
So it would depend on the topic. If it was a topic that fit into an area where she was the main responsible person, then yes.
So would that be like issues of equity, or what would be something that would fall under her?
It would depend on what area in the complaint was about. So if it was having to do with a pregnant parenting teen, Dr. Wise might assist with that because she's over our secondary schools. If it was dealing with, and it's all of the items listed in the policy, sorry.
You don't need to identify, I just wanted to make sure it was not just our new equity officer that was responsible for this.
No,
Thank you.
actually, I don't know that there's anything listed in here that she would investigate.
Any more? Okay, you're welcome. Okay, all in favor, please say, oh, the one more. Quickly, I turn around, it's there. Because when I look at it, it wasn't there. Now I turn around. Okay, go ahead, Clerk Nishi.
It's really
Thank you,
quick.
Reminds me.
Yeah, no, I heard that the report that you provided to the committee was very excellent, detailed, and so I'd like to commend you for that. It shouldn't go unspoken, that there was a great report, lots of detail, and all the rationales were put out there. I don't think we do a lot of these anyway, so that you spent the time to do this should be commended. That's all. Thank you, Madam President. No questions.
If I can, I'd like to recognize Melinda Ortiz, our Director for
think she's
School
here.
Services, actually is the one who provided the report.
I think she's
And
right behind
I
you.
agree, did an excellent job detailing it to our committee.
She's right there. We want to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you, Clerk Nishi. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passed 6-0. 2.2-8, may I have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between Board of Education and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employee, AFL-CIO Local 2229, Council 36 for Health and Welfare Benefit for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. This evening, I have before you our health benefits agreement. We were able to bring the ones for our ABCFT as well as our management and confidential group at a previous meeting. And tonight, we have the agreements with our classified units. So this is for AFSCME.
Thank you, Dr. Zillo. Do we have any public comments on this matter?
I don't see any, Madam President.
Any discussion from my colleague here? Let me look at this now. Nobody, okay? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. Next one, 2.3-8, may I have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between Board of Education and California School Employee Association and its ABC chapter number 24 for health and welfare benefit for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Zillo, I want to apologize to public. I just had a dental work today right before I come to meeting here. So it kind of swollen, so I apologize my speech. So hopefully it's clear to the public. So go ahead, Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. So again, this is our health benefits agreement with our CSCA unit, and we're bringing that for approval this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this matter?
I don't see any, Madam President.
Any discussion from my colleague here? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. Next one, 2.4-8, may I have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, Local 2229, Council 36, amending Article 11, calendar, and modify Article 16, personal necessity, leave of absence with pay for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. This evening, we're bringing the calendar forward for our AFSCME unit. Part of the reason we work and need to provide an adjustment with the leave of absence is to account for a fall break for our employees who are new to the district and are working on the calendar with the students. they may not have enough vacation time for all 3 breaks, and so we allow for them to use the personal necessity as part of that break.
Thank you. Do you have any public comment on this matter?
I don't see any, Madam President.
Any discussion from my colleague here? If none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Next one, 2.5-8. We have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and the California School Employee Association and its ABC Chapter Number 24, amending Article 13, calendar, and modify Article 16, right? Let me see, 10, 5, 17, personal necessity, leave of absence with pay for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. So this is our calendar with our CSEA unit, and again, with the addition of a fall break, our employees who work the calendar with the students, if they are new to the district, would not have enough vacation time, and so that is the reason for the amendment on the personal necessity days, to ensure that new employees are able to meet those breaks as well.
Thank you, Dr. Zillo. Any public comment?
I don't see any, Madam President.
Any discussion from my colleague here? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion passed 6-0. Next one, the 2.6-8. We have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between Board of Education and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Local 2229, Council 36, regarding compensation for 2021. Wait, it says for the 2021 to 2022 school year, I believe so, right?
No, no.
Is it correct? That's
That's
correction.
correct.
Oh, last year, sorry. Yeah, it is last year. 2020 to 2021 school year. Thank you for correction. May I have a motion and second?
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. So this is the one-time compensation from the reopening in spring of 2021 for our AFSCME unit with our employees who worked 6 hours or more, receiving the one-time payment of $1,800, and those working 6 hours or less than 6 hours a day, getting the $900 payment.
Thank you, Dr. Zillo. Any public comment on this matter? Is that one for? For this? No, okay.
No, Madam President.
Okay. Do we have any discussion from my colleague here? If none, all those in favor, please say yes or aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Item 3.11-8, may I have a motion to approve request to contract with Assistant Professor Edward R. Kuraman, is a doctor, California State University of Dominguez Hills, and Assistant Professor Carolina Valdez, California State University Fullerton, to provide professional learning for 20 teachers and administrators that are part of the District Ethnic Studies Committee for 2021 to 2022 school year.
I'll move.
Thank you. Dr. Mayfield, please.
Thank you. So I'd like to provide a little bit of context for this particular board item. Ethnic studies is not new to ABC School District, and so I think that's an important place of reference, this item that I'm bringing forward tonight. Back on August the 20th, 2019, the board at that time voted unanimously to approve our first ethnic studies course that's currently in its 3rd year being taught at Artesia High School. I think it's also important for the community to know that as of October the 8th, 2021, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 101, which will now require high school students to take ethnic studies courses as a graduation requirement, starting with the class of 2030. Districts by law are required to have at least 1 semester of ethnic studies available to students starting in the school year 2025-26 school year. Back in March of 2018, 2021, the California Department of Education approved the Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum. That curriculum provides guidance to school districts. It does not require specific concepts to be incorporated in ethnic studies courses. In ABC, we established an Ethnic Studies Committee back in spring of 2021 that consists of middle and high school teachers, as well as administrators, district coaches, and district administrators. And their work has involved analyzing the framework that was provided by the state, reviewing course descriptions for future ethnic study courses, as well as meeting with scholars from local universities to establish a year-long professional learning plan. That brings us to tonight's item, in which we're asking the board to approve professional learning being provided by Dr. Kumarang and Dr. Valdez. In selecting these two individuals to provide professional learning, they met with our committee, and our committee actually vetted them, as well as, of course, meeting with me first. And what they bring to our district is that they are currently professors at Cal State Dominguez and Cal State Fullerton, and they actually train teachers who are in education programs, or train students who are in education programs to become teachers. And they are the instructors for the ethnic study courses in those teacher credentialing programs. And so what this item would include is 2 days of professional learning with the committee, which consists of 20 members. And that professional learning will focus on ethnic studies, the curriculum development, model lessons demonstration, as well as helping to select the instructional materials. We're hoping to bring to the board in February of 2022 our new course for ethnic studies, as well as the instructional materials in February. And I've also asked Dr. Sue if at that time we can do more of an information item as well to the board to talk specifically about the content of our ethnic study course, as well as the materials that we will be asking the board to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Do we have any public comment regarding this matter?
No.
Okay, now I know back to the, on our board here, I do know the first one will be board member Dr. Chris Abadaka, and second one will go to board clerk, Mr. Nishi.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mayfield, will all of the curriculum, handouts, PowerPoints, et cetera, be made available to the board?
So the instructional materials for the course will be made available for the board. If there's a textbook, as well as there may be other types of materials, online materials, that information be made available for the board to review because we'll need board approval.
Also, will Dr. Valdez and Dr. Kuramang be available should the board have questions regarding that material?
Oh, absolutely. If we can invite them to the board, Mandy.
And this material, because I did look them up and I looked at some of their previously published papers, and so I want to make sure that everything that's being taught, because it seems like they're independent consultants, correct?
They are consultants that work with the universities. They're professors at the universities,
Okay.
and they're providing consulting services to our district.
And so, but what they're going to be teaching will fit into our framework that we've already set as a board, correct? We've already, just in conjunction with California Department of Education, but basically it will be tailored to fit into the infrastructure and parameters that we as a board put forward for this course and for how we wanted to prepare our educators and administrators.
They're providing professional learning. Their professional learning will focus on what ethnic studies curriculum is. We'll be looking at the state-approved model framework as a guide. We will also look at courses that have already been approved by the California Department, by UC approval for ethnic study courses. We'll take a look at those courses. We'll take a look at some of the materials that are being used in those courses. And then we will create an ABC ethnic studies course that we'll bring to the board. And at that point, we'll be very clear on the content of the ABC ethnic studies course, as well as the materials that we're going to be using. So they'll help us in the development of our course.
So it's more of a funnel, right? We start with the big picture and we chisel it down to basically what will be taught in our classrooms by our teachers will be approved and reviewed by this board.
Absolutely.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Apodaca. Next one, Clerk Nishii, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So actually, I want to thank you for doing this work in advance of the governor's law that requires ethnic studies. I think it's great that we're preparing the teachers because that's where you start with, and so this is a great idea, and so I want to commend you for that. So the committee that you had didn't have any parents. Would that normally be handled by the new committee that we have?
So our new committee does not serve in the capacity of approving curriculum. It's the Board of Education's job to approve curriculum as well as the course of studies. That's the role of the Board of Education. What I will have this committee do is share what we're proposing to the board prior to us coming to the board. So I will ask them to go to the Strategic Planning Committee. I'll also ask them to go to the New Equity Committee and share with both of those committees the course outline, the materials, talk about the process that was used. And so we will use those committees to engage in conversation and have reflective feedback before we bring the item to the board for board approval.
Okay, so basically it's out of their ambit. That's out of the jurisdiction.
Their role is to provide feedback, which we've done that before. So when we've looked at other instructional programs, we may share the information with committees and ask for their feedback.
Thank you. That's it.
Next one, Vice President, Ms. Yu.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Valencia, thank you very much. Will this curriculum be available for parents as well to review?
Absolutely. We always put our instructional materials on display for 30 days. We advertise it in local newspapers and on our district website. And we have experts who are available to respond to questions regarding the materials.
So at this point, we have not decided on the curriculum yet?
At this point, we haven't even developed the course.
I see, okay.
So part of this work will be to develop the course. Again, we have a course that's already approved in ABC. We have surrounding districts who already have approved courses, and these are UC-approved courses. And so we'll be looking at the course content. We'll be aligning it to the framework. What's nice about the guidance from the framework is that you get to make the content of the course relevant to your school community. And so, for example, as the former principal at Elliott Elementary School, where I had a large Portuguese community, at that time, you know, in ABC, we could say that we want to make sure we cover elements of Portuguese history in the United States. As you're well aware of, Mr. Niishii's initiative on Day of Remembrance. We serve a community where that would probably be of interest for us to embed it in our ethnic studies curriculum. We have a large Hispanic Latino community, so it'd be relevant to talk about where did Hispanic Heritage Month come from, what's the celebration, what is the acknowledgement, and then African American history. So we get to customize the curriculum to be reflective of the community we serve. And that is the type of information when we come to the board. We will be outlining our course content, the cultural experiences of these individuals, their contributions, the challenges, the mission of them in history, and as well as looking critically at the work that impacts them around equity and access in today. So we will outline the course for the board and the community, the content of the course, and at that time, the instructional materials that we're asking the board to approve as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mayfield. That is all.
Next one will be Board Member Dr. O'Rios.
I just want to highlight again the importance of ethnic studies. You know, you talk to any student, particularly student of color, and it really changed our lives to participate in a class or to take a course that, for the first time, reflected our own history and our own place in this country. I actually listened in on Dr. Suyu participated recently in an AXA event and got to hear it, and it just brought back memories about how really important it is. And it's important not just for us personally, but our society. Because, you know, we go on and we strive to become professionals. We strive to become people, contributing members of the community in such a larger scale. And so I'm excited with what this will do for our district. I'm excited what this will do for our students who have not seen themselves before reflected in their studies. So, very good move. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rio. That's all right, because I'm keeping looking at these dice here. I have a couple questions about this ethnic study, because I know CSBA has been focused on the past 3 years on this ethnic study. I am aware of that because I'm part of the member too. We had study by the races, different group of people that, I think Dr. Su knows that, discuss about the needs for all culture, all races in this topic. But my question is, number one, the staffing issue, because we are short staffing right now, short of staff. Can you find, how do you recruiting the 20 teacher, or you use the current teacher that what we have here?
Yeah, so currently, we're very fortunate. The teacher at our teacher at high school is a new teacher, and he's actually has a degree in ethnic studies. And so that is an up-and-coming credential that teachers are seeking. So we foresee in the future that there'll be more teachers with that credential. But Dr. Zilo, you can add to this. I believe teachers in our history, social studies, credentialed teachers are qualified to teach this course. Part of our requirement is that they go through professional learning before they teach it. We feel that the content of this course requires us to be culturally responsive and culturally sensitive to the target audience, as well as all students who may be experiencing this. And so we have teachers currently in ABC who are qualified to teach this course.
Okay. I know we adopt a CSBA for Education Code, a lot of policy we adopt from there. Have you contacted the CSBA? Do they have any recent information about this ethnic study, the textbook, and do they have a contribute anything on that matter?
So I've been reading and following. I actually have CSB articles here as well on this topic, and so I do look to them as a reference. We're required to align to our California Department of Education framework on ethnic studies. We're required by law to have a course where the content is ethnic studies, and that the course must be UC approved. And so there are parameters that we have to work within that provide the clear guidance that we are being held accountable to for any course that we bring to the board for approval.
Back to the staffing issue, 'cause I overheard, from other school who has an ethnic study, some parent concerned about the teacher, how she presented to the students. Sometimes they bring their own personal issue into class. How do we monitor that?
Good point. That's part of the next board item, and that really does talk about teachers examining their own biases and how those biases affect their teaching and how they view students. And so we are really looking for a comprehensive approach to how we are preparing teachers to teach this course. We see this as an effort to go slow and not fast, and that's why I'm glad that Board Nishii pointed out how we are starting now and not waiting, so that we can make sure that our teachers are trained or receive, training and support. Part of the professional learning is model lessons, and what that means is that experts will observe the teachers teaching the course and provide them feedback and model lessons for them and provide feedback. And so there's a lot of debriefing and back and forth. We're hoping to get this right the first time out, but we also acknowledge that, it's going to take time because it's a different type of course than we've offered before district-wide. And that's not just new to ABC, that's going to be across the state of California.
I thank you so much, wonderful, for all your explanation, and you're on the target. Thank you so much. Without further ado, may I have a motion? All those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Aye. Oh. Now it's a 6-0. Next one, the 3.12A-8. May I have a motion to approve request to contract with the Facing History and Ourself in cooperation to provide professional development to 7 to 12 grade teachers and site leaders for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
So moved.
What's wrong today? Do I have a motion, a second? Thank you. Dr. Mayfield, please.
Thank you. So again, part of that comprehensive approach to preparing our teachers to teach content that is culturally responsive for our student population. Facing History really is a professional learning model that takes a look at the historical impact of race in education. And it really does require teachers to engage in reflective practices around their own beliefs about students and students group based on their ethnicity, based on their gender, based on their economic status. and really to ask critical questions about their own beliefs about students and how that may be impacting student learning. They have 4 pillars that we'll focus on, and that is exploring history of race and academic identity, teacher effectiveness that centers around self-efficacy and cultural awareness, and best practices for working with students who have historically been marginalized, student engagement that focuses on student motivation, student sense of civic responsibility and agency, and whole school culture and climate that focuses on creating school culture and practices aimed at more equitable treatment of all students. And so our model here involves school teams being trained, starting with the leadership team, which will help the consultants to frame the instruction around the culture and the representation of students at that school and the challenges that that school may be dealing with. From working with the leadership team to working with small groups of teachers, whole schools, or just different subject areas. So we see this as a 3-year phase-in, but we're hoping to address all of our middle and high schools over the next 3 years. So this first contract, we're looking to work with probably up to 6 schools.
Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Do you have any public comment with that?
Yes, we do, Madam President. Megan Mitchell?
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
So I, as well as, or good evening, board, I, as well as my amazing colleague, would like to offer up just a suggestion that all ABC teachers have the opportunity to receive this training. Oftentimes, elementary school teachers, our Head Start teachers, are left out of these conversations and don't have the opportunities to receive these trainings. However, studies show, educational theorists show that the earlier on that people are able to evaluate their own implicit bias and how they relate to children is not only a benefit for kids in 7th through 12th grade, but also the kids in elementary school. The way that we relate to children in our classroom, our own implicit bias, our own lack of cultural competency from TK through 6th grade means that kids are sitting in classrooms for 7 years and then have to have all that damage undone by the time they get to 7th grade. And sometimes it's too late. Their self-esteem is affected, their personal self-efficacy is affected, and it's great that 7th through 12th grade has the opportunity to have this training, but it's really something that we should consider opening up to our elementary and Head Start teachers as well. Thank you.
So this professional learning opportunity will also involve elementary. We'll be establishing an elementary version of the Ethnic Studies Committee. This year, the elementary teachers are rolling out a new social studies textbook. And so our focus for them was to become familiar with their instructional materials that are brand new to them that they're teaching on. And then to make sure we have a course outline. So we're looking at backwards planning. How do we create courses that lead up to what middle school students would take, elementary students would take before the high school course? So they are included in this whole comprehensive approach. But tonight's item is only for secondary at this point.
Thank you. So, Chris, did you push the button? Yeah, you did, right? Because accidentally turn off. So the first one will be Board Member Dr. Apodaca, and next to our clerk, Mr. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mayfield, same questions. Will the curriculum that will be rolled out, handouts, PowerPoint presentations, syllabi, et cetera, be made available to the board? And I'll include Vice President Yu's question, will it be also available to the public?
So this particular training it's a professional learning model. So it's not a curriculum that students are receiving, or materials for that nature are not the outcome of this. It's more of like cultural proficiency training. for lack of a better word. So it's more
Like a
professional
seminar.
learning training for
Okay.
teachers.
So it'll be like maybe a seminar or an in-service
Like
kind
an
of model,
in-service
back
seminar,
and forth?
webinar,
Okay.
in-person, side-alone coaching, training in those 4 areas that I
Okay.
spoke about earlier.
When will these begin?
So we're hoping to begin this training as early as November.
Okay. And last question, should a board member have a question or have, want to address anything with regards to the curriculum, or rather the exchange of ideas, et cetera, is a representative from this company available to speak directly to board members or through staff?
I think they would definitely be more than willing to come and share the highlights of their program, the professional learning that they're offering.
And the reason I ask that is we want to make sure that, President Say mentioned that, the public has concerns, and, it's kind of a hot topic right now. So we want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible, as always. And, we want to make sure that what access we're able to provide, materials we're able to provide to the public, that we're able to, but for sure to the board, since this item goes up to $120,000 potentially. So we're just asking for that added layer of transparency and making sure that we as a board are informed. At least that's what I'm asking for. And that's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Absolutely, we can provide that.
Thank you, Dr. Abdagat. Next one will be Board Clerk Nishii, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Really quick, so I expect to see this on the some subsequent agenda for the elementary school as well.
Absolutely, we'll be bringing forward professional learning in
Thank
the
you.
areas of ethnic studies for our elementary schools.
Thank you, thank you. And I just wanted to find out, in terms of how we found this company and competitive bidding, how did we find this company, and did we send out like an informal RFP to say these are our criteria of what we want to have, and 5 companies responded? I just don't have the information in the board report to.
Yeah, so for this area, we're not required to do an RFP. We're not required to solicit different agencies. How we found out about this group is they've been around since 1994, and a lot of our teachers in ABC have been attending their training on their own, as well as utilizing some of their materials. So they were very familiar. This is kind of a nationally renowned organization, and so they were very familiar with this organization. So part of the work of the committee was to seek out different professional learning opportunities that they have attended and they felt was very beneficial to their professional growth. And this was one of the groups that teachers on the committee felt strongly should be considered. As you heard me share earlier, how they vetted our 2 professors. So this committee also vetted different vendors who they thought would add value to the learning of this committee. And so this is the group that was selected. We did some preliminary complimentary training this summer by this group. And so now we're ready to move forward with it on a larger scale.
Thank you. So I know there's no requirement to RFP and do the formal process, but the public would probably want us to follow a particular procedure to know that that this is the best one. I get it, but that we vetted other vendors and maybe the names of those vendors, so that way, if somebody ever asks me, did we compare and contrast various different companies, I can say, yes, we compared and contrast X, Y, Z, and this was the best one by far, based upon the criteria we selected. And so there's no accusation that, we're doing anything different than what would be best for our kids. That's all. So I know it's not a requirement. It's an extra step that sometimes public entities are required to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, Board Member Dr. Rios.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess it's along the lines of Mr. Nishii, although I would not like for us to use the lowest competitive bid.
Right.
Definitely have some kind of betting, which it sounds like you do, and I would hope that the driver be success and quality. But also, I think it was already mentioned that you do plan on providing this to elementary teachers. What is the timeline for that?
So this year is their textbook adoption for their implementation of their newly adopted textbook this year. And so typically, these committees, we begin working with them in the spring so that we can do more in-depth study in the summer. And so our focus on elementary is also reading this year. So those two are the topics of focus as we're moving forward. And so probably spring of 2022 will be the initial establishment of the committee, what summer work taking place over the summer, and beginning that process.
Good, and I really appreciate that we're aligning our efforts, right? I always talk about, action, our words need to match actions. And the fact that we are moving forward with this quest of true equity, it has to be district-wide. And so, we've always talked as a board about how important it is that sometimes we listen in on things and it's like all teachers should be here because, they are the frontline workers of our students. And, when you do have people in the classroom that do need to look at their personal biases, it can be life-changing. So, yay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Next one will be our Vice President, Ms. Ryu.
Thank you, Madam President. My first question is this kind of training a requirement from the state now that the ethnic studies is a part of the graduation requirement?
It's not a requirement from the state. It's part of our comprehensive approach to preparing our teachers to teach ethnic studies and to become more culturally proficient.
I see. And I noticed that the $20,000 from the, what is this? The secondary curriculum, the consultant and independent contractors, we're spending $20,000 for something that's pretty similar, right? Similar training?
No, it's two separate pieces.
Two separate. This is also ethnic studies, $20,000. We're using the LCAFF fund, and then the $120,000 is from the ELOC grant.
Correct.
And
the funding source for 3.12A is the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant.
Yeah.
This professional learning we're looking at supporting school teams. So some schools may choose to do a school-wide approach, meaning all their staff. Some may choose to start this professional learning with specific departments at their school. But in all cases, it's involving the leadership team who will help to guide the conversation and customize the professional learning to meet their school community.
So another question I have is ELOC grant, Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. What is the primary source of this grant to be used? What is the primary purpose?
The primary purpose for this is really to address the instructional learning gap that students experience. And when we don't have culturally responsive instruction in our classrooms, we can perpetuate that gap. And so this training is relevant to us, number one, acknowledging that there is a gap, knowing what data to look at to examine the gap, and knowing what practices are needed to create a more culturally responsive classroom where students are actively engaged in learning, taking responsibility for their learning, and making academic and socio-emotional progress.
So would this grant, ELOC grant, so my understanding was, it's been given to use it directly for the students' learning gap. Correct?
So we already have a board-approved ELAW grant. We've already brought that to the board. The board has already approved that. Included in that was professional learning on cultural proficiency for teachers.
I see.
So the board has already approved the use of these funds for this specific area.
I see. Okay. What is the percentage of money going directly to the students' academic? Do you have any numbers?
I don't have that in front of me.
Academic
Ms.
needs,
Nguyen, I don't know if you know
such
offhand.
as
I believe it's
support,
like 80,
after
90%.
school, Saturday school, Saturday, learning.
I do have that. I would say 87%. If you recall, in June, the board approved the ELOC grant that the district received in $13.4 million. So part of that would go for intervention, would go for extended school days, would go for tutoring, would go to hire the 19 reading specialists at the elementary school,
Yes.
would go to reduce class size and reduce combination classes. So all of that made up about 87% of the 13.4. In in the approved budget by the board in June, there was $1.275 million for professional learning. And in that would include professional learning regarding ethnic studies. So 1.275 for professional learning, the rest would go, I mean, all of these would eventually benefit students, whether it's PL for teachers, and eventually they would be able to become better teacher, or tutoring, or interventions, or more school time, or more support. So that was all approved by the board back in June of 2021.
Thank you. So with the wordings, and I checked out the website of the Facing History and ourselves, and there were a lot of, more theories rather than practical examples to help and work with the students. And I think that something more tangible, I know that I looked at the YouTube put out by the speaker for the Black Family Circle, and something like that was much, much helpful from, that was Ashanti Branch. He was very helpful coming from his personal experience. I feel something like that would be really helpful for the teachers rather than, learning so much theories. And I would actually like to see more of that ELOC grant go directly towards the students. That's just because on the next page in the information item, I don't want to go ahead, but there is a grant of $3.8 million specifically for this purpose. So we already have that money, and I don't understand why we need to allocate money from ELOC grant to do this. Can somebody answer that?
So as Ms. Nguyen indicated, the board has already approved the use of ELOC funds for professional learning that supports cultural proficiency, trauma-informed professional learning. So this meets the criteria in which the board has already approved the use of these funds.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. That is all.
Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. I just have one question. Since we are training so many things to the teacher, I think Ms. Mitchell came down here, asked for, those information, facing history, and also further back to the K2 to 6th graders. And I think also, not just our teacher, I think the staff, other staff needs it too, like the secretary. They also need to be trained in the future, maybe adding them. I have another question is, how do we provide this kind of training continuously? You just do one time. In my work, we usually have every year we have to repeat the same training again to remind the staff, not just only one time. Do we have some budget for that?
Yeah, our approach in ABC is not a one-time and done.
Good.
So we don't provide professional learning using that model. We have a professional learning model that may include a combination of approaches. It may start with intensive 2-day training, followed by ongoing on-site coaching training.
Beautiful.
Followed by looking at student work and data analysis, classroom observations, looking at model lessons and receiving feedback. And so our approach to professional learning is really to be intentional and comprehensive in how we're supporting teachers in the implementation of curriculum and as well as new learning.
Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Now I see the dice. Another one just pushed the button. I have board member Mr. Beach on the board.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a real quick comment. I really appreciated how staff provided us with the curriculum before the vote on the CCEJ agenda item. I think I would personally, and maybe others would like to see a curriculum for something like this before we vote on it. So going forward, I don't know if that could be considered, but I'd like a little more information if possible. Thank you.
So, you want to pull it out?
I'm prepared to vote tonight, but
Oh.
in the future, that's my personal preference, and I would probably abstain in the future if I don't have enough information to make a decision. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion from my colleague here? If none, please, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Am I right? So
Madam
it's
President.
yes.
Madam President,
Uh-huh.
I would abstain from this vote.
Okay, so there will be 5-0 and then 1 abstain. Okay. Next one, 4.4-8. May I have motion to approve bid award ABC 1575, installation of permanent module buildings at Cerritos High School to American Module System Incorporation as lowest responsive and responsible bidder. May I have a motion and second on the board?
I'll move. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Tuan.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Say. This action item is part of the bigger modernization program at Cerritos High School. So tonight, we have here our bond program manager for the Measure BB bond program, Mr. Ryan Carter, together with the principal of Cerritos High School, Mr. Patrick Walker, to present to you regarding the modernization project at Cerritos High School. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Carter and Mr. Walker.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Good evening, President Say, Vice President Yu, Superintendent Dr. Su, and cabinet members. As Mr. Nguyen stated, I kind of want to give you guys the overall picture of the modernization project for Cerritos High School that's up and coming. In front of you tonight is a small portion that we're asking the board to approve of the project, which is just the modular science building and modular classrooms, which I'll show you in this presentation. So without further ado, you know, I wanted to remind everybody of the steps that are in the master plan and in Measure BB. And this is what we used as a guide to develop the scope of work, along with the master plan priority list, the 1 through 10 list here that the board has previously seen and approved. Taking this list and collaborating with Mr. Walker and his team, including teachers and his community at large, we have developed collaboratively the scope of work for Cerritos High School moving forward. So the confirmed scope for Cerritos High School involves campus security. Lunch shelters aren't applicable to this site. Playgrounds aren't applicable to high schools, but we're involving all of the campus technology that we've seen in previous modernization projects, classroom finishes and furniture, a brand new restroom in our science building, along with a brand new science building, which is part of the packet that we're asking the board to approve tonight. We're planning on making their existing theater accessible to persons with disabilities, renovating their media center and bringing that up to the 21st century standard of some of our other high schools, office renovation and portable classroom replacement. So here I'll show the overall site plan, and what we've highlighted, Building M, is where the brand new science building is going. And that's going to take place of some existing portables that aren't currently certified and or will be removed from the campus during construction. Also, you see the other teal box that says portables. That is the other 5 modular classrooms that we're adding to the campus, which will help increase capacity overall and also offset some of the classrooms that we're removing where Building M is going to be going. So this is a layout of the new science building. It consists of 8 brand new labs, all state-of-the-art, similar to the labs that you will see shortly here in the next couple of months opening at Whitney High School. We've also included storage and prep rooms in between for teachers, staff restroom, and a large set of student restrooms on the end of the building. We've included today an example of what the modular buildings from AMS Modular, who is a company that we're asking the board to award the modular building contract to. This is a very similar scheme and finish that we will be selecting for Cerritos High School. So it's a good representation, other than the fact this building in this picture is L-shaped, and we are proposing just a long linear building to fit in the footprint of the existing campus. So we wanted to share some images of the interior of the classroom, showing the state-of-the-art finishes, the technology, the mobile furniture, the resin tops, the new sinks, and how that'll all tie into the brand new science classrooms at Cerritos High School. This is a very similar layout as to what we're doing to maintain parity between the high schools as we're doing currently at Whitney, and we're planning at Gar High School, and will be kind of implemented as standard science rooms throughout the district at secondary schools. Another view of the classrooms, showing some of the natural light coming in from the windows. I don't have another view of the other side, but we have some more windows shared throughout the space to bring in some additional natural light. So part of this project is to take the existing classrooms, modernize them, bring them up to the 21st century standards and beyond. And this is just a quick rendering of some of those finishes that will be put into the classrooms with the modular furniture, and some of the technology that will also be placed into the classrooms. Just another view. Taking advantage of the modernization, we'll be putting in some nice finishes for the school to try and bring in some school spirit. So you'll see the logo that we've put into the center of the floor. That is made with the same flooring material that is throughout the rest of the hard surface, so it's very durable, and it's kind of a nice way to show that school spirit and take a little bit of school pride. So the media center for all of our high schools in the modernization so far have been really a central hub, and working with the school site and their library media technicians and their staff, we've really created a space here at Cerritos that is really going to transform how they use their current library/media center, and really make it much more flexible for now and in the future. And this also, it's very similar to the designs that we're using at Gar High School and are currently being constructed at Artesia High School. So this is an image of kind of a cafe area where we will be able to have refreshments, things like that, for students to recharge for study activities. You'll see some breakout rooms on the sides, areas for presentations, nice storage and central kiosk for our library media technicians, so on and so forth. So getting down to the schedule on the overall project. Currently, today, we're at the Division of State Architect for the major modernization project, which includes all the classrooms, all the infrastructure to the buildings that we're proposing tonight. The exception of these actual buildings, they have not been submitted to DSA. They're pending your approval tonight. We will take these drawings once they are approved by the board, complete them and submit them on a parallel track with the rest of the project to DSA, which we are anticipating getting full approval by January and beginning our bidding in February. Awarding the project by April, which is the main modernization, which is the additional part of the construction, not just the buildings that we're looking at tonight, and beginning that construction April of 2022. That construction will consist of 2 phases. The first phase will end during summer crunch number 1, and we will continue on through the rest of that school year until the second summer of August 23, where the entire campus will be completed at that time. So with that, we can open it up for questions and comments.
We're going to go to public comment first, then we'll go to board discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do you have any public comments?
So is there any public that wants to comment? Seeing none? No, Madam President.
Okay, now back to our. Yes? Oh, Mike. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. Who said that? Ray, thank you. I thought you were going to say stop. But anyway, thank you for reminding me. So back to our board for discussion. I'm starting open now. The first one is our board member, Mr. Beach, following with Clerk Nishi.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Carter, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but is there a building being removed where the new building M is going in, or is that vacant space?
That's correct, sir. So currently, there are 9 portable classrooms that are in the location of the new science building. So we will be, part of this project, removing those existing classrooms and replacing it with the new science building.
Okay. And secondly, the portables that's out near the parking lot, is that used by the sports teams, or what goes in that portable?
So the new classrooms that will be placed, the 5 that will be placed near the parking lot there, those are actually standard classrooms that are up to the site to determine which subject is taught in those rooms, but it's 5 additional classrooms for the site in general. So they're standard 960 square foot classrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Can you put up the pictures so board member can see on the page 6, if you can? Because you have to let us know which ones are facing 183rd Street, which one's on Bloomfield, so board can really see exactly the building that you're going to put it in there. On your page 6 PowerPoint.
I don't have control of it anymore, but.
And you have the
I
mouse
have-
pointer, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. how
If you
to-
can put down, just let us see the page 6 if you don't mind, so
Okay.
my colleague can see exactly the one you replace or modify.
Okay,
Please, thank you. That's page 6, I know that's your map.
sure. I think Scott's going to get that for me. Thank you, Scott.
Which one's the 183rd, please let us know, yeah.
Let's see if we can get, I see the TV now.
Right,
There you go.
that's why, if we can enlarge the pictures, can we enlarge that?
I
You
don't think
can
I have
enlarge,
enough
okay, because of PowerPoint, okay. If you go one slide to one slide, probably okay, but that's okay. Which
Okay.
one's on the top one is, what street that one is? Oh, this is back.
What's the name of the street?
183rd?
Yeah, so.
Is 183rd?
So 183rd is across the top of the page.
On top,
Yes,
and the side that will be the Bloomfield,
correct.
okay.
That's
So,
correct.
yeah. So I see the blue square, right?
Correct, yes. So the teal or blue is indicating the new buildings that don't currently, so where it says portables, those currently don't exist on campus. So that right now is actually a lane, a pass-through lane that will be rearranging the parking lot and creating the space for those classrooms.
Okay, I just want my colleague to know exactly what we're talking about. Thank you, though, Brian.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Beach, have any questions anymore?
That's all, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next one will be Board Clerk Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a lot of questions, actually. This is a really important decision for us to make, and I think it's important for the public to know that we've asked some questions here. So specifically, did the parents get to see the final rendering that you actually, this is not the final rendering of what it's going to look like on page 8, because this is a L-shaped.
Yes, so the rendering that I provided today is just an example of the buildings from the manufacturer. If we choose to award it to this vendor, then the vendor can provide renderings of the actual building that we're proposing.
So we don't actually know what the final product's going to look like.
We
because
do because we have provided the builder specifications, which clearly identify what the finishes are, the types, the quantity of those finishes. So we felt that the image that we shared today was a good representation of those finishes, just that it wasn't our exact building on our exact site.
I see. So it's not going to be L-shaped. It'll be straight across.
Yes, sir.
So
That's
these
correct.
trees that I see here are probably just not necessarily going to be there, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, got it.
This is an example from another school district.
I see. All right.
But I wanted to share with you at least an image of what, we're proposing, so it was clear.
Did the science department get consulted regarding this particular building?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to defer to Mr. Walker. Maybe he could talk a little bit about that process and how we involved the science department as well as his presentation to the teachers, the parent group.
Thank you.
Yes, we've had in-person and virtual meetings throughout, and I really appreciated Mr. Carter, Mr. Nguyen working with our school and customizing our plan according to our needs and our priorities. And so in regards to the science building itself, they met with our science department to ask for their specific input and needs.
Great. And was the bond oversight committee consulted or get to see these renderings?
They have not. We have a meeting coming up in approximately a week, and I will be sharing these same images. I did, however, provide them with a preliminary report of the scope of work that we were developing in our last meeting at the point that we were at the last meeting. And again, I'll give them an update next week on where we're at today.
Thank you. And it's not necessary that you do that. It's just a courtesy that they would
Absolutely.
get to see what this is going to be. My understanding is that LEED is no longer a relevant measure. LEED is something that creates energy efficient buildings. So this is going to be an energy efficient building by the new standards, whatever that is. Before they used to have a silver and gold. What is the new equivalence?
So now typically we follow what is called Title 24 Green Code. And Title 24 Green Code in California has become so stringent that it almost supersedes what LEED used to do in the past, which encouraged and gave incentives to districts to participate in that program and receive the title of silver or gold or whatever you were striving for at that time. Now they kind of, essentially California's code forces you to be that efficient right off the bat.
Okay, so this would be the equivalent of a gold standard. We just don't call it gold anymore.
To an extent, they're very similar. There may be some slight differences, but the standards are very similar.
And in terms of the buildings that we're going to be, the portables that we're going to have at the other location, the old portables tend to be kind of energy inefficient. These new portables that we're building, are they going to be energy efficient, or are they a new generation that is totally different than the old ones that we've seen?
Absolutely. So throughout the process, the good thing about us being able to bid these and not just take and accept a building off the shelf that one of the manufacturers provide is we created hand in hand with our architects specifications just for this job that exceeded your typical portable construction. We call these modulars because they really are going to look and feel like a stick-built, what we call in the construction industry by meaning build it on site, building, opposed to a typical portable that you'd walk into that has tongue and groove plywood floors that kind of flex, and it just doesn't feel like it was constructed out of high quality materials. These buildings have concrete floors, stucco walls, 2x6 insulation, so they're a much higher quality than your typical portable you may have seen in the past.
Yes, I know that. So, but actually, so the portables are actually going to be modular.
Yes, these are all modular buildings, so
Got
they're all
it.
stucco wrapped. They all have concrete floors. We have individual AC units that sit on the top of the classrooms just like we would if we were to stick build a building on site.
Okay, so they'll all each have their individual AC units on top. That's
Yes,
part
sir,
of the
that's
cost
correct.
as well. Okay. So I'm just, I think this is great. I love the media center and everything that we have here, and it is wonderful. I just like, in the future, so that the public also sees this, I would hope that the board report is a little bit more robust in terms of details that are relevant to the particular development. So that would be my only request, in that we get a little bit more advance notice on this kind of thing, because I think this has been in the works for a while. So, you know, I know it's not required, but some entities actually allow the board to weigh in on what they think is important in terms of the RFP, the request for proposal, when we see these things. We worked really hard to get this, and I'm never going to delay this, because this is important that we get this sooner rather than later. But this is also something that's going to be here for 30 years at least. And this is our best foot forward. And I know we're trying to be inexpensive because there's a lot of things that we need to try to cover in this particular bond. But so for subsequent schools that we have, such as GAR, I would like to be a little bit more involved in the priorities portion. I know that the principals and the teachers in the schools and the science teachers will definitely have their say, but I think we should have a little bit, at least informed of what it's going to look like, a little bit more than, you know, just 4 days in advance. But I know that, again, we want to get this underway, and you guys are doing an excellent job of getting this done quickly. I mean, there's other school districts that are nowhere near, and we haven't even sold the bonds yet for this, correct? This is actually phase 2, right?
I'll take that question, but I just want to go back and share with the board this. The board did approve a master plan priority list and give us direction that when we modernize schools, these are the items that we have to follow in this particular order.
Yes, yes.
So with that, with any modernization project, we work closely with the schools and the teachers and the community who are the end user of of the classroom and the students who are the beneficiaries. So we follow this, and we go through our process, and we work with the school to come up with the scope within the budget to present it to the board. So if you recall, we issue the first series of Measure BB bond. The voters authorized $258 million in total. Our first series was $64.5 million. We used that to take care of all the health and safety issues at all schools, and playground equipment and area at all 19 elementary schools. And then, of course, the board approved Artesia, and Whitney was part of that.
The first group.
First group. So there is some residual funding left from the first group of $15 million that we used to plan and springboard the second group, which is Cerritos and GAR. So by this coming spring, we will be issuing our second series, and that 64.5 will be used to pay for, and the remainder of the first series to pay for GAR and Cerritos, as well as the two after that would be our adult school and Tracy High School, and of course the next group would be the middle school. So yes, we are working closely with our financial consultant, looking at the cash flow, looking at the current interest rate environment, and looking at the assessed value, all of that to issue the next series as soon as we can to open, of course the goal is to get the lowest interest rate at the time of issuing.
So no, I appreciate actually that we're going full speed ahead, even faster than I think what the schedule kind of originally had, and that we're planning in advance. So and also when you do these things a little faster, then obviously your costs are a little bit less because there's always inflation and all this stuff. So I truly appreciate that we are going at a great, great pace. I would just hope that we could be a little bit more involved in terms of, instead of just 3 days before the meeting or 5 days before the meeting, seeing the renderings. I know these renderings have been here for a while, that we could see it a month before or a little bit more, so that way if I wanted to go to the community myself to see, do you guys like this? Then they could say, this is the best thing ever, and I could actually gather support and get people to fundraise and work hard for a great science building that's going to be there for the future. So that's my only issue. You guys are going so fast that, it's
Mr. Nishi,
great.
I want to remind you, repeating things. We still have other board members waiting for
I understand, but
discussion. Yeah, I
this is
just
an
want to let you know
important
you're
issue.
repeating quite a bit, so we need to monitor our board meeting time.
Yes, I think we have plenty of time. It's 9:15, and this is $8 million, so I
I
definitely would
understand
like
that,
to ask the
but you're
questions.
repeating things, so we need to control our.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Madam President. I
You're
still have
welcome.
questions, though.
Can we hold you back and let other board member put discussion? I'll get back to you. Would that be okay to you? So we'll let everyone
fine,
have
Madam
opportunity.
President.
Thank you, Mr. Nishii. Next one will be our Vice President, Ms. Yu.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to congratulate Cerritos High School for finally getting this rolled out, and this is so exciting. I mean, it is so exciting, and I'm reflecting on the days when our entire ABC community came together with one purpose and one goal is for our students. And this was one project that we came together as a community and made it happen so that our students will have new science buildings, new bathrooms, modern classrooms, and I never regret putting in so much effort. And it was one thing that we worked together to bring this about, to bring a safe environment for our students so that they would have the education, so that our educators can focus on teaching the core subjects. And I hope that we can remember that even though we have so much controversy and many board meetings going through many divided pains because of critical race theory, comprehensive sex education, I hope that our district will remember to go back to the core teaching, because we want our students to be educated. We want to prepare our students to be competitive for all students. And we do have, I want to see every penny go to the students for for academic support, for education. So let's focus on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're back to Board Member Apodaca, since I promised there was none after me for Vice President Suyu, so I'm going to back to the Mr. Nishi, then will be your turn. Would that be okay? Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead. Clerk Nishi, back to you now.
Oh, I thought that, okay, that's fine.
No, because at that time, no, just only board, I saw other people were pushed the button on and see it, so after she finished, and definitely will be back to you, will be fair. Then following there will be Chris Apodaca, then Dr. Rios, so go back to you now.
Okay.
It's a president call, let's put it this way.
That's
Go
fine.
ahead.
That's fine. So the architect for this particular project was?
Rackland Partners?
Rattland, okay.
Yes.
Perfect. And so are we planning on using the same similar design for the other buildings, or are we going to have something slightly different?
Could you repeat that or phrase it differently?
So the same architect's going to be doing GAR as well?
No, so actually, we have two architectural firms on our bench. One is WLC PBK and the other is Rackland Partners. So what we've done is we actually have a team on each high school. WLC PBK is heading up the GAR High School project and the Whitney High School project. Rackland Partners is doing the Artesia project and the Cerritos High School project.
Got it, great.
We, however, have the same oversight, and we're maintaining specifications and continuity between all the projects.
Okay, great. So did the parents get to see like competing visions of the particular science building, or do you know?
I
Or
believe
is it
Mr.
just one
Walker had a
vision?
meeting with the parents discussing the scope of work, and I would have to refer to him on that.
Okay.
Yeah, not competing versions at all that we had, but we did have a parent meeting on the 20th of the month. I don't know whether it was my presentation and clarity, but there were absolutely no questions, so I will guess that nobody was challenging anything in regards to our project. In fact, there tends to be a lot of excitement about what's in store for the school.
And did we get any other outside grants related to this particular structure?
We have not received any outside grants at this time for this project.
Okay, are there any grants out there? I mean, it may be a difficult environment since there's no bonds.
Currently, to my knowledge, for this particular project, there is not any available, but we're always looking and seeking additional funding sources or opportunities.
Is there anticipated to be any future potential to get matching grants or energy efficiency bonds or federal? I believe the federal government's putting a ton of money out there. Is there a?
So I'll take that one. So if you recall, we were able to get the solar panels. You don't see it here, but that because the solar panels were not being paid out of Measure BB. That's fully funded out of a separate funding. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, the state has ran out of state matching fund for any construction projects. So that source also get dried up. But we do always continuously look for grants or matching grants or anything that we can go after, but unfortunately, for this particular one at Cerritos, the solar panels was the only one that we were able to pay outside of Measure BB.
So we probably looked at the federal infrastructure bond, the $1.5 trillion program, and we don't see anything quite there.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That would be all at this point.
Thank you. Now we're back to Board Member Dr. Apodaca, please.
Thank you, Madam President. This one's for staff. Is Scott in here somewhere? Oh, he's hiding. Okay. Once we have the final rendering, would it be possible to get that sent over and share that everywhere and get a huge life-size blow-up, not life-size of the building, but rather a graphic that we could have here at a board meeting?
Absolutely.
So that way the public can see it, inspect it, and instill that sense of pride, because it's a very long process. I mean, I think nobody knows more than us. It's a long process, right? Even more so for you. But it's very intricate, and we understand that. And so to be able to have something tangible and to say this is going to be this new building that, that the public is sponsoring, obviously, through the issuance of these bonds with their taxes. And I think also for students, too, to be able to see that, right, or incoming students. And hopefully, it can serve as a source of pride to maintain students who are here in our district, and who knows, perhaps attract folks from surrounding districts. Yes, I said that, surrounding districts to come and partake in something new and modern, which is, I think the work that you're doing could be very effective for recruiting, not hugely, but at the very least to say, look at what we have in ABC, our modern facilities, we're putting our taxpayer dollars to work. So if we could get something like that at some point, the final, I think would be, excuse me, would go a long way for the public as well as for us as a board to be able to see that. I mean, these renderings are very impressive, but to actually see what the final building is going to look like, I think would be phenomenal. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Next one will be Board Member Dr. Rios, please.
So I like that I heard parity. I like that we're going to be seeing buildings like this across the district. I don't know if it's a question or a suggestion, but given that we already have buildings such as these, like at Whitney and Artesia, I'd be interested in maybe talking to students and getting some input from them as to how they're liking it. So that, we're not necessarily building the same buildings across the district, but rather we're enhancing as we go along. Because yes, talking to community is important. Yes, we all sat in those focus groups when we talked about what were priorities and what we wanted. But there are kids that are going to be sitting in these kind of rooms soon. And I'd be curious to get some of their feedback and their input about, yes, we love it, keep going, or hey, maybe we need to reconsider here or there.
Well, I liked Dr. Rios, the speech. I really think what Board Member Clerk Nishi also mentioned about the actual was to look like, to present to the public. I think that definitely will be, depending on our public relation, Mr. Smith, help us to adding our student comment too. That'll be really great. The student testimony, and we need, because this is not the first building we're doing now. Because I went to a teacher, really beautiful. I mean the floor is so beautiful. I even can sit on the floor because brand new. I looked inside the classroom is so beautiful. But some other areas still need to improve. I know some locker, these things. But I think it's so beautiful, and this is supported by our community. We need to let them know what we had done because they help us. But we also need to hear from student side. What can we do better for the next building? Because there's always something for improve. So that's just my word. So I appreciate you stay so late and provide such wonderful information to us, and board really appreciate. Anything else, my colleague? If none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. It is a good project. Thank you. Thank you both of you, and thank you, Principal Walker, staying late with us too. Next one, information item, we are the 1.3-1, which is Educator Effectiveness Block Grant Expenditure Plan. And Mr. Lewin. Microphone. Oh, number 8. Okay.
Thank you, Board President. Dr. Valencia Mayfield will go over the details with you, but in part of the 2021-22 state budget, in the state budget, there's a $1.5 billion allocation for an educator effectiveness grant to school districts, and our portion would be about $3.8 million. So in order to receive the funding, there's a two-step process. The first step is, one, it's an information item for the board to review and discuss the plan, the expenditure plan, and second would be at the next board meeting where we would ask you to consider to approve the plan in order for the district to receive the $3.8 million. And the purpose of the Educator Effectiveness Grant is basically, to sum up, for professional development for teachers and classified employees who work with students. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Mayfield to share with the board the plan.
So the themes on 1.3 information item on page 98 and 99 are intentionally broad by design in terms of the language of the Educator Effectiveness Grant. It provides us more time to dig deeper in our data and identify the specific areas of needs based on our data and to develop a full-on professional learning model to support instruction in the classroom. And so when we look at the areas that we have here, these are consistent with what is allowable according to this particular grant. On page 100, we've allocated funds to specific areas that relates to those overarching themes. And again, the intent here is not to have the details because we're not required to have details, but to be consistent with the overarching themes and areas in which professional learning should be provided in accordance with these funds that we are receiving. And so item 1, we talk about coaching and mentoring of staff serving in an instructional setting, beginning teachers or administrators. That can be used towards our teacher induction program, as well as our Compass program that we have for new school administrators. So we can allocate funds to enhance those services that are already being provided, to extend or expand those services that are being provided, again, utilizing data to inform us on those areas that we need to focus in. When we talk about professional learning around the standards, we do have a big focus on reading for next year in elementary. And so we'll be digging deeper into the fundamental standards associated with teaching children to read. So that's an example of where we may want to spend some of the monies in the area of standard alignment instruction. In terms of pupil engagement that leads to accelerated learning, what we've done in the past is really to reevaluate our GATE program at the elementary level, as well as our AP courses and who has access to those courses. And how do we ensure that teachers are providing students the opportunity to access the more advanced courses and offering training specifically in how to accelerate children learning who are identified as GATE or participating in more advanced coursework. That could also lead to some of our summer programs that we've offered to better prepare our students for more accelerated work. Strategies to implement approaches that improve student well-being. That really addresses a lot of our social emotional learning curriculum. Mrs. Ortiz oversees that area, and she has identified some new curriculum that we're exploring as a pilot this year that she's hoping to maybe engage more teachers in the upcoming school year, and we'll have the funds to help support that. That also goes along with number 5, the positive school climate. When we look at number 6, best practices for early identification, development of individual education plans. This addresses our students who have an IEP, and really how we supporting students to prevent the over-identification of students. So what are those tier levels of interventions that are in place? Our teachers trained on the use of the curriculum that we've purchased in those areas so that we're not over-identifying students for special education. Number 8, a professional network for educators already engaged in education-related professional learning networks. We always encourage our teachers to attend conferences outside of ABC where they have the opportunity to learn about current practices in the field from other professionals in our business. And so that could be a Q conference, which is a technology conference that's very popular. It can also be training that's offered by LACO. So that could be a range of training as well. You see here more work in the area of ethnic studies, as well as work for our classified educators who work with students. So again, page 100 aligns to the overarching themes that are identified in the grant on page 98 and page 99. They're intended intentionally to be broad, which will then allow staff time to really develop a more comprehensive detailed plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Since this is an information item, only open to the board for discussion. Okay, and our first one is Dr. Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam President. And acknowledging that this is vague, it's just kind of a big picture just to get our foot in the door with the grant. I do want to point out, though, even though there's no details on page 100, number 4, that's 8%. And I imagine that that ties into mental health professionals, wellness coordinators, et cetera, correct? Amongst other things when it comes to student well-being.
So this is talking about professional learning for the educators in the area of social emotional learning. So that's what this grant is. This grant is the Educator Effectiveness Grant,
Okay.
and it's training for certificated and classified staff who provide direct instruction to students.
So this cannot be applied to anybody who's outside of that scope, correct?
Not directly, not to say
Okay.
that we don't invite people to be a
Okay.
part of that, and often
I'm
they're the
reading
ones
between the lines.
they're the ones
Okay.
who would provide the training, so
Okay.
we're calling them sometimes to actually offer the training.
Okay, because my question was going to be specific to compensation for MHPs, given that we've lost close to a dozen this year. But my understanding now with your clarification is that this cannot be used for compensation. It's only for certificated, correct?
It's only for professional learning.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam President.
Next one will be Dr. Rios, and then following Dr. Rios will be our clerk, Mr. Nishi.
So I understand that this is vague, but we talked a lot about things today that I like to see maintained in conversations, things like culturally responsive teaching, things like PD that involves all teachers. We know what's coming down the pike with this new reading initiative of all kids reading by third grade. I saw literacy in here, but I think more specifically reading, the science of reading, I hope will absolutely be a priority. And, I know that our teachers union president is here, and we have teacher representation, and so I hope we're talking to them about what is the best way that they want to access this PD. Because I know that a lot of times, it's given after school, and teachers, especially this year and the past few years, it's hard. This year continues to be extremely hard, and it's going to probably continue to be hard for the next couple of years. And so, maybe we want to consider those buyback days that used to be offered, or, again, allowing people a variety of ways to access the PDs. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Next one will be Clerk Nishi.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I really like this. I like even the details that is here, and even item number 3 regarding the accelerated learning. We always go for the kids that are at the bottom, but also the kids that are doing that we can enhance and do the great things that we know that they can do, and giving them the opportunity to do that rather than just a little bit. So I'm really actually happy about this particular item. So I appreciate the detail that is here, and we don't want to hamstring you, because that's not the purpose. The purpose is to give us information that's relevant and good, and so I really appreciate this. Thank you. That's it.
Thank
no
you.
question.
I'm waiting for you more. Any other discussion for this information item? If not, we'll go continue our board member reports. Come on, I look for dice. No reports? Okay, we're starting with Dr. Rios, followed with the board clerk Nishi.
Did not want to go first, but okay. Well, my biggest event was participating in the Diversity, Unity, and Equity Committee. I really, really enjoyed it, and I know Adriana Thomas is not here, but she did an amazing and a wonderful job of bringing us together. It was an hour and a half, but it was so meaningful. I could think of 3 words. It was very engaging, it was very enlightening, and very encouraging. The most exciting part for me was listening to our student voices, and so I know that was a big piece that we all wanted to be part of this committee. They had a lot to say, so that's my biggest thing. A couple of other things that I did want to talk about is, recent events have yet again challenged our commitment to diversity, unity, and equity. And I know that Adriana Thomas talked about her presentation to the staff on Title IX, and I wonder if that could be shared with the board, because I think it helps us to remember that, I'm just thinking back to the last board meeting when we had a variety of speakers address us, but the one that really touched, I guess, me was a heartfelt plea for us to acknowledge things like pronouns for students and how things like that really matter and really do save lives. We all have a right to our own personal opinions, and we all have a right to our beliefs, but we also have a responsibility as board members, as staff, as educators, to serve all students, regardless of, that whole list of people who's, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, gender identity, social economic status, et cetera. So I hope that we all take a minute to reflect on that responsibility. Lastly, I guess I want to also address the public comments that, that call on us to take action about comments made. We've said it at every meeting, and I'll say it again. I was not at that meeting. I have not seen a video. There's not been transcripts that have been presented to the board. And so it's hard for us, or me, I'll speak for myself because I don't know about my colleagues, to take action on something that we don't have firsthand knowledge of. You see board members getting into really hot water out there, but their comments are broadcasted on digital media, on every network. So, I just want the public to understand that as a board, we have had limited information as to what really occurred, as, again, firsthand knowledge at that meeting that I personally was not present at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next one will be Board Clerk, Mr. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Think that the principal at Cerritos Elementary did a great job with a great shakeout. I saw the specific procedures, and the best thing I thought about that was that he's learning. So right immediately at that event, he says, how can we do it better? How can we make it safer? And these kids did a great job because they hadn't done it for 2 years. They knew what to do, how to do it, and the teachers knew what they were doing. And it's a tribute to the principal and everything else like that. Also saw them do a COVID a situation, and they did a great job. The nurse did she was very professional, and they did a very organized, as if they had done this 1,000 times before, to ensure that our kids are safe. So I got to put my hat off to Cerritos Elementary for doing a great job on that thing. Oh, okay, there's somebody out there. Yeah, they're not biased. Whitman Elementary, they had a parade. Apparently I was Gru. Just kidding. And there was a Minions. Gonsalves had some dominoes. Palms has a great garden. We ought to see this garden. It is a great, they have food. It's just got light. It's got art. It's everything to be a nice, quiet place, and done by volunteers and parents. So if you guys ever have a chance to go see this place, I think it's a nice place to be quiet. I'm a little concerned about the nails that we have on the top of the breezeways because they look not so great. I know it doesn't going to hurt anybody, but that's just a little thing there. Carver has a great tradition. They're doing the SIPS program, and the parents, well, the what do they call that person? The TOSA, that person is really interested in data. How can we get our kids to read better? And so she's getting a team of teachers, veterans and brand new teachers. She's got a lot of brand new teachers, and doing a great job in terms of getting the kids up and reading as best they can. And I think that's a great program. They're just talking data, and I like that. Not just touchy-feely, which is important, but also data is important. Today's the deadline for Cerritos scholarships, so if some people is going to do that, that'd be great. Some art. I think it might have already passed, so hopefully they have some great entries. And I think regarding the issue of things that are happening in our school districts, so I don't sit on judgment. I'm here to do a job, and that's what I'm here to do. That's so I am glad that our schools are doing so well during this pandemic. I'm so glad that we're seeing beyond it, that we're seeing life come back to the schools. And that's what we really need to focus on. And we can go through all of our issues and work through all the issues together. Together we do these things. And so, and I may not like everything of everybody, but because we want to do it for our kids, we do it together. Thank you, Madam President. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Nishii. Next one will be our Vice President, Ms. Yu.
Thank you, Madam President. On October 27 at 6 p.m., I attended the Black Family Circle, and we had a variety of different speakers. And one thing that really touched my heart, and it stuck to me, was Ashanti Branch when he shared. Teaching called him. He was called. And he had a passion, love for the children, and what he shared of how and why he went into teaching instead of engineer, when he worked so hard, studied so hard, spent so many hours studying. That was a fascinating and really inspiring story. And I hope that, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Wise and, for spearheading this event. So I look forward to all future events, as well as the Latino Family Circle as well. And I want to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving. 1621, first Thanksgiving was celebrated despite hardships and sacrifices. And I'd like to take this moment to thank God that I can serve at ABCUSD as a school board member. I'd like to thank God that I am here in America as an immigrant. Like there are so many other immigrants in this district, that we have freedom and opportunity to pursue what we want. And I like to teach our children to be thankful for their family, for loved ones, and to have food on table. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. That is all.
Thank you. Next one will be our board member, Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. I should have pushed my button before Vice President Yu because she stole a couple of my items, but that's okay. I also attended the Black Family Circle meeting about social, emotional learning and education in the pandemic. One thing that really resonated with me, because I have 2 young kids, is, when we ask our children how their day was, they usually say fine or good. But the speaker said, have them put a number on it, 1 through 10, with 10 being a great day and 1 being a horrible day. And that will open further discussion about, oh, you rated a 1. Well, what was bad about your day? Or it was a 10, so what was so great about it? And I thought that was a nice way to engage your child. Secondly, I attended the Cerritos Sheriff Haunted Jail, and I saw many of our ABC students there. I wanted to thank the Sheriff's Department for putting that on. I'd like to wish happy early Thanksgiving to all of our staff and all of ABC families. And lastly, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my fellow Scorpio and our communications officer, Mr. Scott Smith, working on his birthday. I believe he's 49 years old today, so I wanted to say happy birthday,
Happy
sir.
birthday.
Should we sing?
We should. Huh?
Should we sing?
Thank you, Madam President.
Oh, thank you. Well, I heard Mr. Nishi and Dr. Rios like to sing a song for you, I think. Okay, you want to go? Let's go.
To you.
Cha, cha, cha.
Happy birthday to you.
Cha, cha, cha.
Happy birthday, dear Scott. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
And many more.
That makes us, our district such unique. Thank you, though, Scott, for your wonderful service. And once again, happy birthday to you. And we should, we should know all the staff birthday days so we can celebrate by the month. That'd be really great. Unfortunately, mine just passed 2 months ago, September. Happy belated birthday to Sophia Tse. Before, I know we finished board report and also did, but I do want to let, what? Oh, one more. Hey, you guys always did the last minute. Okay, Dr. Apodaca, go ahead, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. And so 2 things, and then I have a short story. I promise it'll be short. I'm so sad that Dr. Eugenio isn't here. I think he heard I was going to share it, so he decided to just sit this one out. First, this is our last regular board meeting before the end of the year. And, December 7th, I believe we do a reorganization. So to get ahead of that, maybe January, February, I'd like to look into the feasibility and the likelihood of term limits for board members in our school district. And second, I want to say obviously happy birthday. And I wanted to share that I think this is, I can't remember the last time, I don't think it's happened, where our board meeting actually falls on November 2nd. I could be wrong. I'm sure there's a math to it. But today, obviously in November we celebrate Thanksgiving, but today is actually Dia de los Muertos, or Dia de los Fieles Difuntos, which is to say, for those of us in the Catholic tradition, All Souls Day. And there's a story that I grew up with as a little kid that I think speaks volumes, and I'd like to share it with you briefly, because I share it every year, so if you want to tune out, you can. But for me, it has special significance for my family as well, especially coming through this pandemic. And so it's a very quick story, I promise. So hundreds of years ago, there was a missionary in a foreign land, and it was the middle of the night, and he's woken up by the sound of singing and people talking, and sounds like maybe praying. So the missionary runs out to the front yard of his house, and he sees a long line from the village going all the way up to the top of the hill where the cemetery is. A little puzzled, the missionary goes up to a woman in the line and says, what are you doing? It's the middle of the night. Are you guys crazy? And the woman looks at the missionary and says, well, this is the night where we go to honor our ancestors. This is the night where we go to take them pan dulce, or sweet bread, flowers, and music. And so the missionary looks at her and says, I have a question for you. Who are you going to visit tonight? And the woman says, I'm going to visit my mother. She passed away last year. The missionary then asks her, well, when your mother was alive, did you take her that pan dulce, that sweet bread, so she could enjoy its flavor? Did you take her those beautiful flowers so she could enjoy that sweet scent and aroma? Did you tell her you loved her and sing to her and play that music for her? The woman, silent, her eyes welled up with tears. She dropped her head, turned around, got back in line in the procession up to the cemetery. And this is a story growing up where we're always mindful that tomorrow is not guaranteed. Despite whatever's going on in the world, in our personal lives, physical lives, financial lives, you name it. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Every day above ground is a blessing. And so today is a time to reflect and cherish the memories of those who have gone before us, the lessons they taught us, what they meant to us, the impact they had on who we are as people. But it's twofold, because they're gone. We can't take them that sweet bread. We can take them flowers, but they can't smell them. And we can sing, but they can't hear us. We should value the living. The pandemic's been hard. Folks have grown apart. People are estranged. Every single person in this room has that one person they wish they could pick up the phone and speak to. And who knows, sometimes they live across the country, maybe they live right down the street. So it's my sincere hope and prayer for all of you here and those at home. If you have that person that you miss, that you love, that you wish you could talk to, send them a text, send them a song, drop by, call them. That awkwardness, that fear of reaching out is nothing compared to the regret of never speaking to them ever again. That said, Feliz Dia de los Muertos, happy All Souls Day, and I hope that you all can spend some time with those that you treasure and you love, and continue to honor the memory of those that have gone before us. May it be so. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. What a wonderful value, the living. And thank you, though. I really appreciate you end of this report. And that really brought us all together to think about. To my mother, she passed away, my children, I loved her. So we still go back to visit. Every time I say, let's go see Grandma's graveyard, and they always say yes, because she had done so much to us. And I do regret I didn't give that much flower, though, the smells. I should, and she would babysit for me so many years. And Mom, I just want to say I missed you. But I really appreciate the way you said it. Really, really touched all of us here. But I do want to share one thing I forgot to share with you at my board report. Lately, I've been, you heard about government approval for 5 to 11 COVID vaccine. And Dr. Su and I were working on right now for those people who wish to give 5 to 11-year-old COVID vaccine immunization. And school will be coming out, the schedule probably due on Friday, am I right? We'll provide one of the school side for 5 to 11-year-old COVID vaccine shots. And that will be usually some Friday afternoon after school, so make parents convenient to drop the kids and get the kids to have vaccine shot. So thank you, Dr. Su, to work with me for the coming 5 to 11 shots. The next one, announcement for our regular board meeting will be on Tuesday, December 7, 2021 at 7 p.m. at our district office boardroom. I do want to remind the public of at next meeting, we will open the public comments on the second public comment for virtual people who stay home. And the first one will be open to the in-person only. Committee meeting, oh, sorry, did I say the next board meeting? Yeah, I did, right? 7 p.m. Committee meeting will finance and audit board advisories on Thursday, December 9, 2021 at 6 o'clock. That will be virtual meeting. Date of the remember with the Veteran Day, a holiday considered for our school district. That will be November 11, 2021. Fall break, November 22 to 24, 2021. Thanksgiving holiday, November 25th to 26th. Now we're going to the second public comment section still for in-person. Before I say that, I just want to say, Ms. Mitchell, my daughter say hi to you. They were high school friends. She did say that to me. She said, make sure you see her next time. Public announcer say, hey, how are you? Okay, just want to let you know that. Thank you for staying here, though. Anyway, so we're going to the second public comment section. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do, Madam President. Alice Caraccio? Alice?
So Papa left already. She left already, probably.
Well, I'll put her on hold for, go to the next one. Megan Mitchell?
Hi, Susan and Gary.
And Gary, that's right.
And Gary. So originally I was trying to stay away from this topic because I felt like people were ready to move on and I went against my gut. But I feel like especially after the vote tonight, that it has to be addressed. It was very disappointing for Board Trustee Yu to abstain on the cultural competence training for teachers, specifically, after the comments that were made at the event at the Cerritos Public Library. And I think that it shows even more so the need for cultural competence because as Dr. Mayfield pointed out in her presentation, incompetent teachers directly affect student achievement. Incompetent teachers directly affect our ability to support students' social emotional learning. And any good teacher knows that unless you connect with students and build rapport with them and build respect and trust with them, they don't care what's coming out of your mouth. They don't care the math lesson that you're giving. And so I teach 5th grade history. I'm a 5th grade teacher. If I were to get up and say in the middle of a history lesson that blacks should get over slavery, that can do tremendous damage to my students. And unfortunately, there are teachers that do say culturally incompetent things similar to the things that Board Trustee Yu said at the library that causes detrimental effects on students, I being one of them. Part of my role as a community member, not just a teacher and not just as a parent, but as an ABC alum, is to reflect on the things that were done to me as a student. And I had it easier because my mom was a teacher. So a lot of teachers that said things to my fellow classmates that are also Black Americans, like we were there at Whitney for affirmative action reasons, even though we were admitted after affirmative action was already taken off the table. Or me being told by a teacher that taking a full scholarship to Cal State Long Beach was not only wasting the affirmative action opportunity that was given to me at Whitney, but was feeding into cultural stereotypes about blacks not performing well. I was told that by my senior teacher at Whitney High School. And as a 35-year-old woman who is now teaching, I look at the fact that he was not culturally competent, which is why he felt like saying bigoted and ignorant things to me was okay. And so without the training, we're continuing that same cycle. I don't want to sit up here and have my son, who's currently an ABC student, tell me in 20 years, like I had to tell my mom, the things that teachers said to me behind closed doors. And without cultural competency training, these things go unchecked. Why? Because saying something like, you're an affirmative action admission, that has nothing to do with math. That has nothing to do with history. That has nothing to do with ELA. So when teachers are not provided the opportunities for cultural competency trainings and we're solely focusing on academic areas, we're allowing their implicit bias, we're allowing their unchecked and unwillingness to see outside of the box, right? This isn't again, a political issue. This is a moral human rights issue. And our students are not just suffering because of a reading achievement gap. Part of them are suffering because they're uninterested in what's being presented because they have a teacher who doesn't understand them. Dr. Rios said it perfectly. When we have students sitting in classrooms and learning curriculum that's not reflective of them, and they have teachers that cannot relate to them, they cannot relate to what's being taught. And while the board may not feel like cultural competency training is needed for them, and while saying things about saying culturally insensitive comments may not be an end-all be-all for the board, as teachers, it matters. We cannot continue to allow spaces where kids are harmed because of our own incompetence. And it's not just me who needs cultural competency training, because even as open and social justice mindset as I try to be, I still know that I have implicit bias, and I would hate to cause childhood trauma to another student because of my own ignorance. Thank you.
Can I respond, Madam President? No?
In general speaking, we don't like didactic to our,
Okay.
unless you insisted, then definitely I will let you do it. Do you want to?
Yeah, just quickly.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. For the peace sake, it's okay. Yeah.
Excuse me, please control yourself, You're not in the podium. Mr. Cerritos? I understand that very well, please. The board president has the right to overriding that. That's just like a policy they're telling we can override. I respect you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Mr. Ray Gare.
Go ahead.
Good evening, President Say, Board Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Sue. So, I heard a common word tonight, professional development. So, I've been talking to teachers throughout the district, and thank you, Dr. Rios. You're in the trenches with us, and you know what's going on in our schools right now. I'll tell you what's going on in our schools is that there are two things that are on the teachers' minds. One, short-term independent study, which is a side effect of COVID, but it has increased the workload on teachers. And it's something that we're working on in negotiations. It's something that's really taking the time of teachers. And quite honestly, they're getting burnt out. And so the other piece, though, that is probably far more important, and I've talked about it before. I feel like a broken record. I've been talking about it for years and talked about it a couple of meetings ago. Substitutes. Without substitutes, we are destined to fail. So you're talking about professional development with this block grant. I'm going to tell you all the things that won't happen because you don't have substitutes. You're not going to do core curriculum for English and math and history and science and technology and engineering, mathematics and computer science, because you can't sub the teachers out. And what are your principals doing? They're taking over the classrooms. All those TOSAs that we hired for reading development for our kids, they're not doing that job. They're subbing your classes. We are stalled as a district. We're not going to get practices and strategies to re-engage pupils to lead to accelerated learning. No way. If you don't get subbed out, you don't get to learn those strategies. You heard from academic services. They're doing the best they can. They have a plan. But I'm telling you, that plan is not going to happen because we do not have subs. How about, this is a really important one. It's not just about academic achievement. These kids are coming back from trauma. Implement social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, suicide prevention, access to mental health services, and other approaches that improve student well-being. We don't have subs to train people on these these are outreaches for humans, for students. We're worried about what's going to be here for 30 years. You know what's going to be here for 30 years? Teachers would like to be in the district for 30 years, and they need the tools to teach students. Who ultimately is impacted if we don't get subs? Students. So, I hope you do something about teaching about harassment and bullying, intimidation, gender, race, nationality, sexual orientation, all that stuff. How are we culturally competent if we don't get teaching from professional development? We need your help. Please take care of this. You're sitting on over $60 million. Do something about it. Our kids are suffering. Our teaching is suffering. It's a setup for failure. Thank you.
I want to recall Alice Craccio. Okay.
Okay.
Eddie Salcido.
Good evening, board members. I'm not sure if I've ever actually formally introduced myself. I am a ABC Unified School District product. I went to Kennedy Elementary School, went to Whitney High School, and then UCLA. My two daughters at Kennedy Elementary School, the Buddy Bench, you guys talked about it earlier, is amazing, and there's a lot of great things going on in the school district. I do want to wish Mr. Smith a happy birthday. So, Ernie, I didn't know you were such a crooner to belt that thing out earlier, but a couple points to bring up. One, Zoom participation. My wife and I, she spoke earlier. She's a much better speaker than I am, obviously. But how can we not have Zoom participation in order to have speaking engagements with parents who can't put their kids in the back or in the car or have babysitters? There has to be a way. IBM, Apple, you name any company in the world, they can figure it out. And I know our tech guy was amazing through the pandemic. You needed Wi-Fi access, you needed hotspots. He was able to do it. So we got to do Zoom participation. Sue, you. My wife told me not to talk to you because it's not worth it. But how different does this room look without your flooding the thing? And you can leave, that's fine, no problem. Because these are all going to be on public record and it's going to be on video. Dr. Rios, you haven't seen the video. I will gladly show it to you. I will provide it to you. I'll email it to you. I'll email it to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith can make it available to everyone. I've seen the video. I've heard the audio. There is no question that Miss Yu represented herself as a school board member. She says it 2 times in a 4-minute and 50-second video that I saw tonight. So she clearly represented herself. Your legal counsel, our money was spent on defending her. Thank you, Mr. Nishi. So she clearly identified herself as a board member. Dr. Sue, you have to see this video. Negligence, incompetence, it's not a defense, okay? Her last week bringing in everyone saying critical race theory, sex education, no. This is about her comments about, and I doubt she went to the Black Family Circle Zoom meeting and said, hey, I love your book, but you gotta get over it. It happened 200 years ago. I doubt she said that, but she said it in the video. I watched it, and you will watch it later tonight or tomorrow, or you won't. And then you can claim to legal counsel, I never saw it. I don't know what you're talking about. But it's out there, and it's going to be in the public record. Now, I want to concentrate on things that actually matter to our kids, not this. This is not this. Plexiglass in the room. My daughter comes home every day. Dad, I can't see my teacher. I can't hear my teacher. The plexiglass is in the way. I cannot concentrate on my education. And I'm not anti-PPE. I'm not anti-vax. I'm glad you brought up being vaccinated. I'm all for all of that. But let's have a conversation about saying what is actually working and what isn't working. Our PPE falls down all the time, and it gets backed up. You saw an email from a mom 2 weeks ago where she was cut, or the son was cut. Let's stop talking about this nonsense. Censure her, do the right thing, do whatever you want, but do something. And Mr. Nishi, you want to do your job, so say something of substance, not just, I want to do my job. I want you to do your job. But we cannot let this exist. Let's just concentrate on the things that are important. How do we get all the things we were talking about? The diversity and inclusion. Let's move on from this. I want to move on from this, and I don't want to give any more headspace. Thank you, Ms. Nishi. So, you will all get a copy of the video where she makes the comments about get over it. I'm happy to talk to you separately. I'm happy to talk to any conversations you want. But Ms. Rios, you said you haven't seen it, so I will make sure that you get a copy of it tonight. Okay? So that's it. Please do the right thing. You have a vote on December 7th. And I hope that your vote on December 7th is reflective of what happens in November 2 in 2022, where the proper members of this board that have the respect for our kids are reelected to this board. Thank you. Have a good night.
Do you have any?
Yes, last one is Amy Nunez. Nunes. Oh, okay, sorry. Nunes, yes. I remember that.
Yeah, that's
I
how
remember
Portuguese
that.
called, right.
But I'm married into it, so.
But you don't look like the same one I know from never mind, that was Ross. Never mind.
Okay. Cousins to my husband somehow.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Sue. Thank you for your comments about where you were talking about visiting the schools and seeing all the great things that are going on in the schools. Because despite everything, we are doing great things at our schools. I'm from Cerritos Elementary, so I saw Mr. Nishi and I saw Dr. Sue just in this last week. I wanted to let you know a lot of our school staff were not okay. We are just not okay. Many of us feel that the district leadership and the board comes out to have a photo opportunity, and it's discouraging. We feel that you're out of touch with what's really going on day to day in the schools. We want you to see the nitty-gritty. We want you to see the day-to-day struggles when our principal comes in with 2 yardsticks and contact traces, and you watch the face of 6-year-olds freak out. Even just the mask through just the eyes, you see the panic. Is he going to touch my desk? Is he going to touch my neighbor's desk? And then, oh, am I still going to be safe in the classroom? And he does it in such a kind and caring way, but it's traumatic for them. It's traumatic for the staff when it happens. The independent studies that happen as a course of that are another thing that are just very difficult for us. But I think what I'm asking you for is come on a regular day. Spend time. Talk to the teachers. Talk to the custodial staff. Talk to our poor administration that are trying to cover 3 classes at a time because there are no subs. I was supposed to go to a funeral, and I can't go because I know there won't be a sub for my class. And that's heartbreaking for me. As a Catholic, we honor our dead through funeral service, right? And so come to our schools. Talk to the teachers like you, and to the custodial staff, and to the office staff and to the administrators like you do the parents. Find out what we're going through. Find out what our struggles are, because they are immense. I never thought we would have a harder school year than we had last year, but I would almost take online and in-person again versus what I have right now. It's just too hard to maintain, and we're going to start dropping and not being able to come back from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cerritos Elementary School teacher, for coming forward to tonight's meeting. We always welcome you to come back and see us and present your personal comments. We're glad to hear that. As board, we do travel school to school, class to class. And I also went to your school. I talked to your custodian. I also talked to your principal, and some of your staff even called me on the phone. And all those things that you want to present, not really presented in our board meeting here, I already told Dr. Su already, and it's been discussed, some of the issues that you have right now. I just want to let you know, okay? It's not, I wasn't there. I talked to people and I also visited. And so does my other colleague, visit their school site too. So without further ado, I want to thank you. Regarding the plastic glass, Mr. Salcido, I don't want to make that back to you. I am working with our CEO and the staff and see how can we remove it, or should we cut? I know some of the school district will only make a half of them so kids can see on the side. The reason is we're talking about the curtain right now. It's a flu season. You know, kids sneezing, and even wear masks, kids not really put masks on during the class time. I visit a couple of times. So I am consider that right now. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, just want to let you know. So I kind of wear right now, it's really confusing the public. It's a flu or a COVID-19. Even my students sometimes have sent them home until they give me a two-time negative COVID test, and then allow them to come back to school, which has caused a lot of issue there. Cerritos Elementary School has a concern about some of the kids, you know that the kids got sick, they go to independent study, right? And then the student will back to the in-class teacher. So that's a lot of, we understand that. I appreciate our teacher working so very hard. I'm a teacher too. So I know how you feel. I'm working in a hospital, I see the COVID patient when I pass by. Here, my husband is a cancer patient. So I am nervous that even I wore 2 masks in the field, I'm still worried. So I want to let Mr. Salcido know, I really concern our kids' health right now. I'm worried about the spray. I'm worried about the flu versus the COVID. And COVID's not over yet. It's still there. Hospital still gets COVID patient there. When they're sick, they're really sick. So plastic glass, I also worry about the scratching on kids' skin. I know that. I see that too. And I always concern, what do I need to do? So it's been discussed. Give me some chance, and let's see how the flu season. We heard the flu season going to be really bad this time. So I want you to understand that. I didn't take you emailed to us it's a long words in there. I see it, I read it. You know, I just want to let you know, I am taking the consideration that too. So please be patient with us. Overall, like we said at the very beginning, the kids' health is our number one. You know, we don't want any more kids get sick and doesn't have an in-person education. And it's time for us to pay back to them. I want to thank you so much for staying late. I know you have small children home, okay? So without further ado, just want to let I'm going to move our meeting to adjourn. May I have a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. Thank you very much, and good night.